Powered by Riverside FM.
Nintendo's Metroid series is defined by compromise. In 1986, two programmers who had cut their teeth on making Game & Watch titles had the opportunity to make a game for Nintendo's Famicom. Inspired by the enormous success of Nintendo's own Super Mario Bros. A year prior, the pair used that as a basis for a more ambitious title. A science fiction epic with even more enemies and cool weaponry than that game provided. However, months out from release, there was no game. To get the project over the line, the entire Nintendo R&D 1 team took over the project, led by department head and future Game Boy designer Gunpei Yokoi. Without the time to start the project from scratch, they instead used what they had. All those animations, sprites, and sprawling level tiles the two programmers had developed. Instead of players seeing all of these elements in a single level, like say a Castlevania game at the time, it was decided that these enormous levels would be chunked up and arranged like a large map, and that players would need to return through previously explored areas to open up new opportunities. Motivating players to do so would be all those awesome weapons, which would have additional utility to open new paths. It was in those last few months that Metroid became the Metroid we now recognise. A combination of Super Mario Bros.' side-scrolling action and the treasure-driven exploration of another Nintendo classic, The Legend of Zelda. Ever since, Metroid has walked a tightrope between these two identities, action and exploration. In 2002, new developers Retro Studio faced this challenge head-on when they decided to reboot Metroid into a brand new sub-series. Embracing the third dimension as Mario and Zelda had done a generation previously, this new Metroid adventure wouldn't be seen from the perspective of a dislocated camera, but instead from the eyes of Samus Aran. In short, the team at Retro had turned Metroid into a first-person shooter. Despite initial concerns that the series would become brainless going the route of Doom and Quake, Retro defied expectations with Metroid Prime, one of the finest GameCube games made and a true outlier to the FPS pantheon. Although built on the foundations of games like GoldenEye and Retro's own Turret Dinosaur Hunter, it stood apart from titles with similar inspirations, Halo, Time Splitters and Medal of Honor, by instead embracing slower exploration driven by new visor technology and Metroid's trademark design. Today, we're focusing on another point of compromise the Metroid series had to make. With the success of Prime established, an opportunity opened up to create a new adventure for Nintendo's upcoming portable system, the DS. A truly unique device with two screens, the bottom of which had a resistive touchscreen. The DS also boasted wireless multiplayer, and the ability to connect to brand new online services. The question was, how would Metroid make the most of these new creative avenues? And would it have to sacrifice its now iconic design to do so? Well, on this episode of Bullet Time, we look at Nintendo's Software Technologies 2006 shooter, Metroid Prime Hunters.
Right.
So, the thing to keep in mind, because that is a thing as well, that this is the perfect opportunity for you to promote that you're doing a new podcast series, Darkfry.
I am.
Tell us all about it. What is it?
Has the podcast started?
I imagine by the time this episode goes out, it probably will have started.
Oh no, I mean,
yeah.
have we started?
We can start here if you want. I'm happy. I'm happy.
I was confused. I didn't know if we did.
Well, we were doing. We do a hot run. That's what I enjoy doing that on episodes of Bullet Time. I like getting the conversation flowing, and then, unexpectedly, I'll hit you with the intro. But
okay.
I mean, if you want me to hit you with the intro now, I can. If everybody agrees to that, I can do that.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Not very enthusiastic. But,
Yeah, we'll do a podcast today, I guess.
yeah, I guess we'll do a podcast while we got
Poddy.
Darkfry here. Hi, folks. Welcome to Bullet Time, the video game podcast that analyzes the shooters that miss their marks. This is an FPS game that very much does fit into that category, which we will get into relatively soon. Despite the fact that the prefix of it is quite... I mean, I don't know if this is like the biggest franchise that we've covered so far, because we haven't done like any of the Call of Duty games or whatever. But like in regards to like... Well, especially, Ben, considering the episodes that you've been on, although they have all been kind of Nintendo adjacent.
Yeah, well,
This is-
yeah.
Yeah.
We've slowly been getting closer to Metroid.
Yeah,
Yes.
weirdly, we've been taking more and more steps towards Metroid bit by bit, which I guess before we go into that, though, so first things first, introducing a guest host for this episode. You've already heard his voice. It's the Amblix System's #1 Diddy player. Hey, it me, Ben.
Hi, I'm Hate Me Ben.
Hello, hey, me, Ben.
Yes.
And also joining us on this podcast is host of upcoming podcast series Video Gems, also a video maker on YouTube, and noted Metroid Prime fan. I guess Metroid fan in general, right? I don't think it's not specifically Prime, but I guess Prime's your #1 though, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, introducing to the podcast Darkfry. Hello.
Hello. It is me, Darkfry.
It is.
I am all of those things. I make a podcast called Video Gems, in which I talk to video essays, game designers, and artists in general about their process and the art they make.
Yes.
I make video essays on the channel of the same name, Darkfry, and a lot of them are about Metroid.
Yeah, so you've done 2 or 3 videos about Metroid now, right?
Yes.
You've done a sequelitis video about Super Metroid turning into Metroid Prime. You've done one about Metroid Fusion turning into Metroid Dread. And what's the other one that I'm not thinking of? Or is that both of them?
No, those are the 2. I plan more in the future, and I talk about Metroid all the time. So
Yeah. Well, probably a good place to start with that then, because I decided for this episode we had to get the 2 biggest Metroid heads that I knew in the same room, because Ben, on the last episode you were on, we got you to play Clive Barker's Jericho
Yeah.
for the most tenuous reason of it was made by Mercury Steam before they went on to make Castlevania games and then eventually 2 Metroid games. But you're finally actually dipping into the well. So I guess to start with both of you then, and I guess you can take it in turns, whoever's going to talk first on this. What is your relationship with the Metroid series by Nintendo? What do you like about them? What's your favorite one in particular? I don't know. What is it about the series that keeps you coming back for more?
I can go first then.
Ben, you go first.
I believe Metroid Prime is my first game, so there's a very long history of me playing the series. From about the age of 5, maybe. Wasn't very good. Couldn't read either, which was a difficult one.
That doesn't help. This is a game you do a lot of reading.
wow.
My dad had to read out scan logs to me because I had no idea what was going on. But yeah, after that, it was just sort of, I loved it. It was just cool to get lost in that world, and also like scary in a way. So like, it was just very formative, and Talon 4 was where I grew up, as well as Garstang. So yeah, and then from there it was just Metroid Prime 2, which is my favorite Metroid game. Mostly nostalgia, but I do think it improves on a lot of what Metroid Prime 1 did. And then other than that, I eventually played Fusion, which I was surprised was 2D when I played it. Then
Even
I played
though it was
Hunters.
on the GBA.
Yeah, well, I didn't know 2D Metroid existed, so to me, Metroid was a first-person shooter, so it was a bit jarring.
That's fair.
And then, Hunters after that, which I played a lot of, mostly the multiplayer. And then Prime 3, and then went back and played all the old ones because there was a bit of a stint after Other M.
That is true, yeah.
So yeah, I've played every game but Prime Pinball, which
Oh
you know.
my God. So you don't actually know all the Prime lore then?
No, I'm missing out on quite a few crucial details. Mostly
you've played pinball, right? You must.
I have not played pinball.
Oh no. We're missing a lot of context here.
We genuinely
no.
are. There's going to be a lot of stuff I wanted to mention about Hunters, which you would only appreciate if you've played pinball. But
Yeah. Pinball came out first, didn't it? I believe.
Well, before Metroid Prime. Well, before Metroid 1986.
Yeah, it was the first one. That's actually where they got the idea for the Morph Ball from.
That was where I got the entire idea for Metroid from, was Metroid Prime Pinball for the Nintendo DS. Dark, I guess same question to you. Although I think I've also kind of connected in my brain as well, is that I think you and Ben are relatively the same age, so I think you probably would have been the same age when Metroid Prime 1 came out as well.
But Prime 1 wasn't my first Metroid game. It was actually Prime 3.
Oh, okay.
On the Wii.
Ah.
Corruption. So I played Prime 3, Corruption on the Wii, and then I picked up the rest of the trilogy on the Wii. The trilogy.
Oh yeah, where they remade them with Wiimote controls.
Yeah. And I played 1 and 2. And then I went back to the 2D games,
Nice.
which I'm not as big a fan of as Prime. Like, hot take, I don't like Super Metroid's controls.
I don't either. Oh, good.
They're heckin' dog. I don't like them.
They're not great.
No, they're not good.
But and like, it's because it wasn't my first Metroid game or my first exposure to the series, blah blah blah. And so going into those controls was a bit jarring, but yeah, just like Ben, my first exposure was the Prime series, and started with 3, and played all 3 of them on the Wii. I never played the GameCube originals.
Interesting.
That is very interesting for certain. Mostly
So
Prime 2.
I only played them with the motion controls.
Would out of the trilogy, which would you say is your favorite?
2.
Oh, okay. So
good.
everybody here's the 2 head then, right?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
2 is the best one.
I was just definitive facts. It was the best one.
Yeah, and we've got the 3 definitive voices on the matter in the same room,
that is
so.
true. Yeah. I was
Two's
hoping
had
that,
I'll go. A bit of a resurgence in, like, mostly in the video essay sphere. I think there's a lot of 2 fans. I tend to see it mentioned as, like, for people that are, like, fully into the full Metroid series, 2's generally, like, their favorite of the trilogy.
Yeah, not to, because I recently, to when we were recording this podcast, but not when it comes out, but I had been doing a bunch of Metroid research because I made a video about Prime 4, which I imagine by the time this podcast comes out, Prime 4 still won't be announced or anything will be shown
or
of
out.
it, but I'm happy to eat crow on that if that is not the case. But I don't know, I mean, we'll maybe get into... sorry about that. We maybe might get more into that towards the end of the pod, but Prime 4 is... it just seems further away now than it ever has. You know, I don't know if we ever will see it.
I'm just happy it's been announced, if I'm honest. You know,
Yeah,
that'll
but
keep
it
me
was
going.
announced 6 years ago.
Yeah, I know, but look,
I'm still not sure it has been. I have this joke about Silk Song, and I do it for Metroid now too, where it's like, are we sure it's been announced, or was that like a collective hallucination?
See, this is what I've been thinking about Pikmin 4 for all these years, and yet it's coming out.
Yeah, you did will Pikmin 4 into existence. That's true.
Yeah.
they made your wish come true of that. It's called 4 because it's 2-2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
two
2 squared, yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 squared. It's the sequel to 2, 4.
And hopefully they're going to do the same thing with Metroid Prime 4.
See, because I mentioned that in my video, which was that I think it's been so long since they've made a Metroid Prime game, and the most recent one they've done a remaster of Metroid Prime 1, which they've added like shooter controls to, which obviously is interesting to the game that we're going to start talking about at some point. But with that, well, I guess technically they did that with a Wii version as well, but this one's like actually twin stick, which feels more like a Call of Duty game or something. But the fact that they remade Metroid, well, I mean the reason they remade Metroid Prime 1 is because it's the first one, but the fact that like Metroid Prime 1 will be so fresh in people's minds, I do wonder whether they will go the soft reboot approach of being just kind of like, it will be more like Metroid Prime 1, which in fairness, 2 is also a lot like Metroid Prime 1 because it is a direct sequel to it. So, yeah, I don't know.
Maybe the start of a new trilogy?
Oh, that'd
Possibly.
be good.
Star Wars?
Yeah, they're gonna bring in Rey Skywalker into the Star
prequel
Wars
trilogy.
I can't. Oh, they're gonna do a prequel trilogy. They're gonna do. Oh, Over M could have been the start of a prequel trilogy. That would have been exciting.
Yeah, I will say, and this is my semantic point I'm going to bring up. I bring it up a lot, but and it's funny to think I bring it up a lot because I've been bringing it up for 6 years since they announced the game, which is a long time ago. But they, I really hope they don't call it Metroid Prime. I know they're going to, but to me, I know Metroid Prime's kind of become synonymous with first-person Metroid.
Yes,
but Prime is, related to the Phase-On trilogy.
Well,
so
Metroid
really shouldn't be called.
It was a funny joke that I was going to make about the game that we're covering, which is that in the video game Metroid Prime Hunters, not only are there no Metroids, Metroid Prime 1 literally has the final boss of Metroid Prime. Spoilers for Metroid Prime 1, folks, but the final boss of Metroid Prime 1 is called Metroid Prime 1. And then Metroid Prime 1 comes back in all the other Metroid Prime games as Dark Samus. They evolve like a Pokemon into Samus's doppelganger. And so, yeah, it makes sense in regards to, really, it should only really be called Metroid Prime if it has got Metroid Prime in them. And yet, I guess the pinball game technically does, because they recreate that boss fight. Federation Force, not really a Metroid Prime game, because Metroid Prime is...
a Metroid game.
Yeah. I have Federation Force thoughts that we can get into in a bit.
Actually, to be fair, I do need to play that at some point, because I haven't. I've played a little bit. I have not beat it.
I
don't know if you need to play it.
Most people, but I think that's because Metroid Dread Metroid Dread and the remake of Metroid 2 exists. If that was like the last Metroid game they ever made, it would have been a bit more of a sting, I think.
At the time, it felt like it.
Because it was, 6 years after Other M or something?
It came out 5 years after Other M.
Jesus.
So it came out
to have Other M and then 5 years later Federation Force. It's a really bad 2-hit combo.
Yeah,
it's like if they hadn't made a Mario game since Mario Sunshine, and then the next one was New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS. Not the original one for the DS, just the 3DS one where you collect coins.
What? No, it maybe wasn't even like
the mobile game.
Yeah.
If the next Mario game in the NES was Mario Run. Yeah.
It's Mario is missing, and then the next Mario game after that is 5 years later, and it's Hotel Mario.
Oh, jeez, yeah, there we go. That's a good one. So yeah, we're all pretty pro Metroid then. Question is though, are we all pro Metroid Prime Hunters for the Nintendo DS?
So here's the thing, right?
Okay,
this game it invoked some very strong emotions in me.
That's fine.
So here's the thing, right? I think that let me put it this way. If I was a Nintentuber, this would be the game. This would be the game that my evil alter ego Darkfry would be like, you gotta review Metroid Prime Hunters. Why are you gonna review Metroid Prime Hunters, Darkfry? This would be the game, and I would review it in like a super special episode that was this gigantic production as the 100th episode of Darkfry reviews or whatever.
Sure.
Or the 100,000 subscriber special, and it would and it's the game that's my demon.
That bad.
Well,
Right.
because in this alternate universe where I am a Nintentuber, I've established myself as the Metroid Prime guy.
Of course, yeah. No, you have your avatar is you have the baby Metroid as your sidekick, even though the baby Metroid wasn't in any of the Metroid Prime. The baby Metroid hadn't been born yet at the time of Metroid Prime.
Yes.
No.
But he's in all the thumbnails.
So
Okay.
yeah, this is alternate universe. Nintentuber Darkfry established himself as a Metroid Prime head, and
he's joining us
brings
today
up-
on the podcast.
Yes.
yeah, brings up Metroid Prime Hunters as the punchline of a joke in like every single video, and everyone wants him to review it. And whenever Hunters comes up in conversation or in the writing of the video, which I wrote, so I put it on there on purpose. I play like the sound effect that's like the horror sound effect.
Oh,
So,
well,
yeah,
from
this would-
Metroid Zero mission when you find an unknown item. Oh no, the horror sound from Metroid Hunters when you bump into a hunter and he goes
Yeah,
"Da-da," and then starts playing drum and bass.
Yeah, so this would be the game.
Okay, interesting. Ben, I think you might be a bit more Goldilocks on it because I'm going to go with the other opinion of, like, I think to a lot of people this game is their Paper Mario sticker star. To me, this game is kind of my Paper Mario sticker star in that I actually think it's kind of okay. I don't think it's that. I think it's all right, and as a not really I guess it is a spin-off. It's not part of the main Metroid Prime franchise as a sub-series of a sub-series, and in that respect, I don't know. They did a lot of weird things with it that I'd like to get into, and I suppose we will. But yeah, overall, warm thoughts on Metroid Prime Hunters. I would happily review it as I would stand in front of my shelf of amiibos and Switch cases and be like, a lot of people rag on this game, but actually it's pretty good, I think. Meanwhile, Ben, what's your opinion on Metroid Prime Hunters?
We're going to go even warmer.
Okay.
I know I shouldn't love this game, but I really like this game.
Wow. Oh, fuck. All right.
A lot of it is nostalgia, but even playing it again, I was like, oh man, some of this actually, feels alright.
Okay.
But I mean, there's a lot of issues, but
Can
it's a lot easier to ignore when I've got a history with it, and also appreciate kind of what it was going for and the system it was going for.
Yeah,
it's a very technical. I don't know, masterpiece is the right word, but it's a technical delight to me.
Okay, that is an interesting way of putting that. I don't know if okay. All right. I've decided I'm going to take the stance of I'm going to be the person right in the middle then, because I would not call this game a technical delight. There's two things I want to immediately knock off the list, which is one, if you fall out of bounds, it says that your suit is corrupted and you die in an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is what would happen in real life.
Okay.
I mean,
in fairness, this was developed alongside Metroid Prime 2, which also introduced bottomless pits, but they came up with a better solution of, if you fall off the edge of the world, we'll just put you back where you were and take some health off you.
well, in all fairness, they weren't developed by the same team, and they
No,
weren't
they
even.
weren't. That
So
is true. And
they probably weren't sharing that many notes.
That is
which
absolutely
maybe
true.
was not for the best, but
We will go into that. Second thing second, I'm a big fan of a morph ball section in the Metroid Prime games, and the morph ball sections in this game are disgusting in regards to how they control, how the morph ball feels, the weight of it. I want to talk about the fucking... So I don't know whether you got to this in your playthrough. So for folks at home, keeping tally, I have beaten this game, Metroid Prime Hunters. And even though I played it when it came out a couple of times, I've never beaten it before, but I did for this podcast. And so I can speak with authority on this. Ben, you have beaten this before as well.
At least twice, yeah. Both endings.
Well, there we go. Ben, I want to talk about the fucking... So you go to the lava planet, which name I can't remember. We'll get into the planets and stuff in a moment, but you go to the lava planet for the second round to get the second octolith from there. Mm-hmm. And you go into the industrial zone. And there's a bit where you're going along conveyor belts with giant pneumatic pistons, and you have to do it as the morph ball. And the morph ball controls are so shit that doing that piston section took me, I want to say, at least 2 hours.
That's the point where I stopped.
Yeah,
right.
I'm going to say this stuff.
That's the point.
I stopped playing it for about 2 days. After that, I had to take a break.
I did this part like 2 days ago, and it was like I was trying to like power through the game to like beat it in time for the recording. I was like, all right, I got 5 out of 8 octoliths. It's not that long. I can just do it in like 1 or 2 sessions, and I got the 5th octolith from the Celestial Archive second visit and was like, cool. Went back to the lava planet, got to this part, and I threw in the towel. I was like, nah, I'm not doing this.
This was the backbreaker. Like, I'm not, like, I can't do this anymore. The fact that it took me so long, it felt like when you play, like, I Want to Be the Guy, and you just keep repeating sections over and over again to get them, but then you're introduced to a new section where you have to learn that. It was, or like Getting Over It is kind of like that, where you beat the first section, and then you get a good enough at that you can just breeze through that the next time and then get onto the other one. But it's for rolling a ball along a little path as, like, pistons are popping in and out. It's like Mario, it's not even, I think they did this in the other Metroid Prime games. It's like one of the simplest puzzles you can do. And yet the control scheme of this game is so... well, it's not so much the control scheme, but it's like the speed of how Samus moves in Morph Ball mode and stuff is so awkward that it is a death trap.
And it's so hard to stay still.
Yes, it is.
For some reason, as the morph ball, the hardest thing to do is stay still. There's another part where you have to like stay on a tiny moving platform as the morph ball.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's impossible. Like, you just have to get on the moving platform. It starts moving. There's no like barriers on it. So if
that's in the ice area, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you move even a little bit, you fall. And you have to get from one moving platform to another moving platform and then to a railing that gets you to the ice weapon.
Yes.
To the adjudicator. And it's really hard. It's really hard to stay still on that platform. I don't know why.
I nearly put my head through the wall as well on... There's timed platforming challenges with the morph ball in regards to like, you activate a switch and then you only have 10 seconds to do a bit of like, platforming. And there's an elevator that you have to time the morph ball getting on. And I don't know why, but doing that was fucking, it took...
It's on the same section.
Oh, it's part of the same section. Jeez.
You go up on the elevator and then you move a little bit and then... You have to take 2 hovering platforms to get to the other side. And to get to those platforms, you have to go take that elevator. And both getting on the elevator and staying on the platforms is really hard for no reason.
It's... Yeah, and the ball has momentum on it. When you take your thumb off the D-pad or the touchscreen or whatever... It still has a little bit of movement on it, and that really fucked me up in a lot of instances. I was not a fan of that. in this.
Plus, there's a go a billion miles per hour button.
Oh yeah, the boost. Yeah, which you can accidentally activate just by using the touch screen to move the ball. But if you move it too quickly, you just blast forward at 1,000 miles an hour into a piston and explodes.
Yep.
I think
Great game.
Great game. It's a combination of two problems, which is the ball doesn't feel very good, and literally, unless it's like a wasp farting on you or one of the hunters shooting you, pretty much anything is a one-hit kill in this fucking game because they didn't quite, as you said, it's a bit of I mean, you called it a technical delight, but there were some limitations in regards to, what happens if they fall off the space station? They die immediately. Okay. What should I check?
I won't call that like a... I don't think that's any fault of the system, though. That's not like something that was limited by
no, absolutely
hardware.
not.
It was just
that wasn't because the DS only had
decision.
so much RAM that they couldn't send Samus back to where she fell off. No, that was a design decision. That and it was falling off the world caused it to explode, and there was something else that I found really annoying. It'll probably come back to me, but yeah, a lot of weird decisions made with like Metroid platforming and stuff. That being said, though, as you did correctly point out earlier, Ben, this wasn't made by Retro Studios because looking into the development of this game, Retro were deep into development of Metroid Prime 2 as this was being made. So this was made by Nintendo Software Technology, who are based in the Nintendo of America headquarters in Redmond, Washington. And just a little bit of details about them. That started by Minoru Arakawa, who was the head of Nintendo of America at the time. The son-in-law of the Nintendo CEO at the time, whose name I have completely blanked on. Not Satoru Iwata, the guy before him, but Hiroshi Yamauchi. But NST, not particularly, of like all the Nintendo subsidiaries, maybe not one of the better known ones, because they're mostly... They made Wave Race Blue Storm as a Nintendo GameCube launch title, and that was like their first big game after doing a bunch of like Game Boy stuff. And then pretty much in the last few years, they were mostly known for doing the mini Mario games for the Wii U, the Mario and Donkey Kong ones. But in between, they made Metroid Prime Hunters, and this was initially pitched by Kensuke Tanabe, who was the producer of the Primes, right?
Yes.
Yes, because Prime has a funny... And I could mention Prime development story stuff, because we're never going to cover the proper Metroid Prime games on this podcast, because they're too good, unfortunately.
Damn.
But, Tanabe came up with a concept for it, but as I said, they were too busy working on Prime, so instead... They basically contacted NST and gave them the idea. And initially, they had a very robust pre-production phase where they came up with, like, kind of a lot of the ideas of the world and stuff like that. But it was mostly the hardware that inspired what they were going to do with the idea, which brings us on to another point, which is this is the first game on Bullet Time that we're covering, which is a designated for a portable system. This wasn't a console FPS or a PC FPS. This was in that small period of time where Nintendo used to make handheld consoles, and sometimes Sega and Sony had a punt at it as well. You know, you had the Game Boy, you had the Game Boy Advance, and at this point they were onto the Nintendo DS, which its big selling point was two things. One, Wi-Fi connectivity. And the second is that it had a big touchscreen at the bottom of the device.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, NST looked at both of those things and said, oh, this might be a fun opportunity to make a very good multiplayer game with Metroid. And so the majority of their development efforts were focused on making a Metroid multiplayer game. And then from the research that I did, it was mostly in the last few months of development that they took what they had and implemented a single player because Nintendo told them they had to. So very cool with that. Ben, do you want to tell us about some multiplayer memories? Because I did not get a chance to play the
This game makes so much more sense now.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Nintendo WFC has been dead for years at this point.
So the maps in the multiplayer are all quite cool, but you'll already be familiar with them because most of them are in the story.
Because they are used in the single player.
Yes. Basically, I think every single multiplayer level is included in the story as a single room at least.
Interesting.
There's a good section where you jump between teleporters and it just puts you in different multiplayer maps. Which I think is quite funny.
Is that how they use that? Is that it's just basically that room, but in the single player where they get juice out of it is that if we keep changing the colors of the lights, we can pretend it's different rooms.
Yeah, it's funny because I think they realize, okay, well, some of these maps that we've made are sort of we can't really fit them in thematically with the other areas, so
not really, no.
Yeah, so the multiplayers. You get to play as Samus and 7 different hunters.
Yes.
Which is the main kind of... We haven't even touched on the hunters yet, but...
no, we will,
they all have their own primary weapon, as well as their own morph ball. And some of them even have like passive attributes. Like the main one is Trace, who can, if he stays still for long enough, he turns invisible. And combined with the fact that he has a sniper rifle, he's ridiculous in multiplayer. But yeah, you get to pick.
He's
a character.
ridiculous in single player too.
Yes,
yes,
a little bit.
Darkfry messaged me about Trace and was like, "This guy keeps kicking my ass. I hate him."
So yeah, the main thing in the multiplayer is that there's different game modes. There's like team deathmatch, not team deathmatch, but like free for all deathmatch.
Capture the flag.
So probably, if I remember correctly, is like a mode where King of the Hill sort of thing.
Oh, nice.
There's quite a few. I think there's like at least 5. But yeah, I mean, it's just there's not a lot to it. I guess there's not like a ton I can say about it, other than it's like really solidly well made. I like a lot of the hunter abilities, like being able to play as Weevil. You could turn your bottom half into a turret. And sort of plant it down somewhere and then go off and like hit people with your top half. But both halves could take damage, so you kind of had to play into that
manage
aspect of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a lot of the cooler stuff in the single player did feel like it came out of stuff that they invented for the multiplayer. I guess I'll say this much. I did play the multiplayer back in the day, but I was insanely jealous of all the children who were able to get the launch Nintendo DS, which had the first Hunt demo in it, which Darkfry, you know about this, right?
No.
Okay, so when they launched the original Nintendo DS, the fat boy, in its initial couple of runs, it came with a cartridge called Metroid Prime Hunters. It was just called Metroid Prime First Hunt, I believe, and it was just it wasn't the whole multiplayer component, but it was because it didn't have the hunters. I think it was all you played as Samus, but basically it was like a prototype for what they were doing with hunters. There was a couple of maps in there. Everybody played as Samus, and the control scheme, I believe, was kind of faithful to what they would do in the final game. But a lot of people basically said that was like the DS's Super Mario 64 in regards to like why you should buy the console. This is the actual Mario 64 that did come out on launch day with the Nintendo DS. So, yeah, very cool demo. And I guess to kind of like piggyback off that, because we've sort of touched on a little bit. Because we are covering a portable game, and this was the era before like the Nintendo Switch and like standardized control schemes. This is a weird FPS game in regards to its control scheme, as in there's 4 different control schemes you can choose from.
Mm-hmm.
So what did everybody choose this time, I guess?
I went default, which is you can walk around with the D-pad, good stuff. Shoot with L.
Yeah.
And then the weird ones are double tap the screen to jump.
Yes.
And actually, well, I guess that's about it. And then you tap the screen to change beams and all that, turn to morph and stuff like that.
You use the big touch screen like a big touchpad. Like you use it to
you aim with it.
You use it like a stylus. You use the stylus of the DS to aim the weapon. So it was the first. So it gets the crown. It's the first Metroid Prime game to have independent moving and aiming. About what, 5 years or no? Because it came out in 2006.
Just a year before. Just 2 years before.
Yeah,
Prime
2 years
3.
before Corruption, and then obviously the Prime trilogy of that. But interesting with that because they do kind of change a lot of how the game works because you can do that. Dark, you played it through emulation, right?
Yeah, I do. I played it on emulator with a controller, and I did the controls where you aim with the face buttons, move with the control stick, and yeah,
I think it was
it replaces the touchscreen with the face buttons basically.
Yeah.
But for Morph Ball and changing weapons, still had to use the touchscreen, which for me was the mouse. So whenever I needed to like do Morph Ball or change weapons, I would have to like take one hand off and click on it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, sure. It's not, and I think
not the best controls, but it.
No, I guess
it was
works.
playable.
And it's funny because I have tried to replay. I did try and replay Hunters a couple of times over the years, and the exciting thing was, I can put the D-pad on a control stick and the face buttons on a control stick, so it's like I'm playing a dual stick game. But because you do have to use the touchscreen so often, because it's still a Metroid Prime game, and that means that basically they were like, well, what's the thing that Metroid Prime's famous for? Well, it needs to have the scan visor, and it's like, okay. So we're going to write like tons of like morphology and lore? No. We'll write a post-it notes worth and we'll just spread it across the game. To the extent of every time you beat a boss in this game, which I don't even know why I said beat a boss. When you beat the boss, because there's only 2 bosses in this game over and over again.
4. There's 4 total.
Okay.
Shut up.
No, there's 3. Well, there's 3 total.
There's the lava lad. Who gets repeated.
Fucking yeah, the guy looks like he's wearing a big jumper. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But he's a mini boss.
Well, yeah.
Okay, he does have a health bar. And I guess the Hunters are all technically
And the
their own
Guardians,
bosses.
they also have health bars.
Yeah, so I guess when you think about it, actually this game has more bosses than the original Metroid Prime.
Yep.
So I guess I'll give them that. It's just that Metroid Prime didn't have the core to say, okay, you fought a wacky totem. Now fight the wacky totem again, but this time he moves around like a Roomba around the arena.
It was, when I fought the wacky totem, and then after a while I fought a big ol' eyeball with 3 tentacles.
Yeah,
that was really annoying.
Yeah, he's not great.
I came out of those 2 boss fights, and my exact thoughts were, wow, I really, really hope those are the only 2 boss fights in this game.
Those were so good. I would like to see them continuously iterate on them. Especially the big fat donut guy. I hope they give him a special ability where he stops, shakes in place, and then tries to kiss Samus non-stop.
Yeah, and becomes invincible during it.
It's long been thought that the reason they didn't end up making more bosses was because of time constraints or something like that. The truth is, they just kind of nailed the first 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Miyamoto was in the room and he said, "Don't bother. Yeah. You did it. The
giant eyeball is perfect. I love how it swirls around in its last phase and it's impossible to hit."
What if we put it on the ceiling for one of them? That'd be good.
Yeah, what if we do that for the
Miyamoto's input?
Yeah, Miyamoto's input was like, this game should put everything you've learned to the test. So what if the last one is it's on the ceiling?
I didn't even get to that one.
Well, I'm going to say it's exactly like all the other ones, except he gets a new ability, which is he drops from the ceiling and then rolls around the arena very slowly.
In a bold new step, though, I think
is
it might be the first time. Yes, he is.
Of course.
Of course he
It,
is.
it
Love
might
it.
be the first time that a Prime game has ever asked you to look up.
That's true. Yeah.
That's
'Cause
cute.
There's a lot of cutscenes where Samus looks up and there's Ridley like on the roof.
Yeah.
You never do that as the player. So
No,
yeah,
not really. Sort of like a 45-degree angle at most.
No, it's funny. FPS games in general really struggle with getting players to look up. I mean, there's an entire I think one of the Half-Life 2 commentaries is about like it's really hard to get players to look up, which is why the manacles or whatever they're called, the guys who pull you towards the ceiling, like they had to do a lot to get players to be like, hey, there might be guys on the ceiling, watch out, to the point that there's like, not only are they designed like so heavy-handedly that there's like stuff dangling around them and like fucking skulls and stuff to let you know, hey, people have died here, but they also give them like a fucking robust introduction of stuff rolls towards them. They pick it up and do their entire animation to teach a player, hey, there's guys on the ceiling. This is Metroid Prime Hunters, where you just start the fight and the guys on the roof, like whatever. Don't give a fuck.
He just lives up there now.
He just lives here now.
Yeah, I had this problem in the first Wacky Totem fight.
Okay.
Because the Wacky Totem fight, how it works is it has a bunch of like spots on it that you
Yeah.
need to shoot and destroy. And after you do all of those, a crystal thing pops up at the very top of the totem
Yeah.
and starts going up and down like crazy.
Yeah.
And you need to shoot it. That's the main guy.
Yeah.
That's the main guy.
That's its
going
brain. That's
out of the whack. Yeah, going out of the wacky totem, going help me, and
I need to escape.
shooting things at you.
God.
Took me a while to see it. It took me a while the first
Yeah.
time I was fighting the wacky totem to realize that after I did that, I did all the spots. I needed to like look way up to see a very small thing that was really hard to shoot
Yep.
while lasers and homing missiles were coming at me.
You're still being shot by this thing constantly as it bobs up and down.
And also the thing in this game, it's impossible to avoid things. It's impossible.
Yeah, the hit scan weapons are a little bit ludicrous in this in regards to like, because Metroid Prime's pretty good in regard, like the original Metroid Prime is very good in regards to like, actually, why do they call it the original Metroid Prime? There is only one Metroid Prime. I guess free like all of them don't have this issue where it's like all of the monsters are very like telegraphed in their animations and they mostly shoot projectiles. It's very rare that you do have enemies that do hit scan, like have hit scan weapons. Whereas,
Yeah, and also you can dodge them. Like there's
Yeah.
ways that you can move around in
Yeah,
which to
strafing
dodge
is
them.
like-
In this game, enemies are in your presence and you take damage.
so that's what I kind of alluded to in regards to like, because they gave this an FPS control scheme. This is the first Metroid Prime game that doesn't have a lock-on in it, which even Corruption and the Wii makes, and the remastered version of 1 still keeps the lock-on because that's how you do like, that's how you have to scan stuff and whatever in the game. No, not in Hunters. No, you just got to learn to shoot. That's what they say. Which, imagine playing this game with the face buttons like on a release DS. Like you would learn to hate video games doing that. It's
Yeah.
awful.
No, I think I've learned to hate video games doing it. Like it's like it's the sensitivity is such that no matter, I haven't found a sensitivity option that works.
No.
It's either too slow or you move just a bit too much so that you miss it either to the left, you press the face button once and now you're missing it to the right because every enemy in this game is tiny.
Yes.
That's the other problem. So it's the no lock-on combined with the fact that pretty much every enemy in this game is a
Tiny
is
flying
something-
thing. Yeah.
tiny flying thing or really fast ground moving tiny thing.
Yeah. Apart from the
It's
Hunters.
not a good combination. It's not good.
No, apart from the Hunters, which are tiny when they're at safe distance, but then the moment you get anywhere closer to them, they're easier to hit. But I mean, did you get to the Silex fight, Darkfry?
Yes.
Yes.
Well done.
Oh, fuck.
So the Silex fight, right?
Yeah.
What made me? I think I messaged you about this.
Oh yeah, you did.
Cider.
Yeah.
I think my exact quote was that it made me want to bash my head on a wall.
Yeah.
I think that's the exact quote, because you walk, so you're in this space station area, and you walk in a room, and this guy just jump scares you, and
Yep.
his weapon is constantly doing damage to you, like homing. It's like a laser that saps energy from you all the time.
Well,
homing.
specifically, it's the lightning gun from Unreal Tournament.
Yes.
It just constantly shoots out a just crackling lightning, which automatically just targets anyone in range. And
which is you.
Yeah, which is you.
Which is you. It automatically targets you 24/7. This thing does not stop, and it saps your energy. It makes the screen shake. The screen shake all the time. It plays the sound of, because you lose one energy at a time. It saps out one energy. You constantly hear the sound of you losing HP, which is this loud. Which, if you haven't played a Metroid game before, it's this sharp, loud noise that you hear like every second, and all this time, this dude is jumping in front of you like Neo from the Matrix, dodging every bullet.
Oh, yeah.
You shoot. He's impossible to hit because of the aforementioned screen shaking and sound effects. Yep. All the while you're begging this to stop.
Meanwhile, the music's wilding out.
Yeah, and the music is like this wild, like it jump scares you with the intro, and he shows up and he starts like unloading
lightning,
electricity on you.
Yeah,
and the drums go crazy, and there's this bassist behind you, like just going to town. It's just a wild experience. It's like they're dangling keys in front of me, and the keys hurt.
Now, Ben, you love this game, so
I need to go to bat here.
Yeah, can we get a counterpoint from you? Why is Silex good?
I'm not going to defend Silex in particular. I do like Silex though. It's a fight kind of teaches you to stay away from the fight. The hunter, which I think is a decently interesting change of
this is when
scenery.
This is when Metroid Prime Hunters turns into a survival horror game for 30 seconds accidentally.
So I actually really like how it controls with the stylus.
So I never quite said what I did, which was so not only is this a game that I beat for bullet time, put that on the list, but it's maybe the first game that I've played with like proper appropriate hardware. And by proper appropriate hardware, I mean the new 2DS XL, which has the nice circle pad and the really massive touch screen. Both of those
gotta say, I would probably like it a lot more if I played it on a DS.
Yes.
I'm not discounting your opinion. We have an open forum here where we get good conversations out of differing opinions. It does feel like a game that was built around the stylus, which, according to the research that I was doing, they went back and tweaked the game a lot because the feedback that they were getting from the first Hunt demo was stylus controls. That's the money. That's what people want.
Yeah.
So.
The game, if you haven't played this game, you might have played Kid Icarus Uprising, which
the control scheme is
I was gonna mention this earlier. This is the game. This is my thought. I was playing. I was like, oh wow, so this game did it first, huh? Sakurai ripped off.
Yeah.
Metroid Prime Hunters.
And they play very, very similar. Icarus obviously plays like quite a bit nicer, but I'm like so enamored by the stylus third-person shooter gameplay style, or just even any shooter gameplay style. I played Kid Icarus Uprising to death, and it's like, of any shooter I've ever played, I feel the most, how I don't know, the most it what's the word I'm looking for here?
Well, like tactile or like
Tactile,
like
definitely. Precise, I guess. It feels like I'm the most in control of like any, like even more than a mouse and keyboard. I feel more at home
Interesting.
with a stylus, which obviously isn't going to be an option in any game ever. But
not unless you're James D, who has a fucking not a Cintiq, but one of those Wacom tablets with a screen in it, and you can play it with a stylus. Then, if you would want to do such a thing,
yeah,
it's nice though.
I
Not
really
as nice.
like the way you kind of like rotate the screen, your camera with the stick.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it works for me, and I get like my aim's really on point. This game features headshots.
It sure does. It feels really satisfying pulling them off as well.
Like you can the Guardians I struggled with a lot as a kid. During this playthrough, I'd like take a couple shots to the head, they just die instantly, and it was like, oh wow, that is very satisfying.
Especially when you start unlocking the cool weapon, like, especially the moment you get the fucking sniper.
Oh yeah.
The adjudicator in this, it is just like fucking headshot wiped off the bat, which is like meant. It does have that nice Metroid thing of you're not constantly, you unlock stuff and you go back to previous areas and you feel a lot more powerful. Not very good with the level designs in regards to like backtracking and stuff like that, and I guess we'll get into why in a moment, but you still do get that kind of feeling of like power control, which is very odd considering that all of the weapons in the game are technically balanced against each other. Sometimes in a smart game design, every weapon on the field should be useful kind of way. Also in the stupid Nintendo rock, paper, scissors way of, this weapon is better against this weapon or this person kind of way. But they do the last weapon that you get is the sniper rifle, and I think it's because this is the this is just the power weapon. This is just the one you want all the time.
And I will say this about the weapons, I think they all control really nice. I think they're like not maybe not control really nice, but
they have
compared to other Metroid games, the differences between them feel a lot better. Because they all kind of have their own arc and like their own firing style that isn't just shoot.
Yeah, the identities of all the weapons in this game are really well thought out. And again, not to promote my own stuff, but one of the things that I mentioned in my video on Prime was that, especially Prime 1, and I kind of noticed it a bit in Prime 2, but not as much. But
it's a all
of the different beams kind of have their own identity, and especially are all kind of built around feeling like old FPS style weapons. So the plasma beam is a rifle. It is like precise. It is, a sharp beam versus like the ice beam, which is now like a big kind of lob, like kind of like a big blunderbuss sort of thing. Every weapon in this feels like a riff on like the best weapons from Quake, but they all do kind of have their own cool identity. So like the lava one is a grenade launcher, like it bounces along the floor, so you have to take that into account. The high voltage weapon it's like the plasma in Doom. It's like this slow, it's a slightly slower moving projectile, which is cool. Samus's power beam feels really nice, and I didn't realize that this was the first game that implemented you hold the left button and you get a couple of shots off initially, and then she starts charging, which they put in the remaster. And I was like,
that was one of the strangest parts about the remaster that took me a while to get used to, where I'd hold to shoot and it would shoot out multiple shots. I was like, oh, that feels weird.
But you know why they? I mentioned in the video the reason that they do it is because they've moved it to the trigger essentially, and so constantly having to like pump that down to get individual shots off versus a charge, which I get why they did it. It makes more sense in Hunters though, I think, than it does in the remaster, because again, like the travel distance on the shoulders on the DS and the 3DS and stuff is so much more minimal than it is on the Pro controller. Maybe not so much on the Joy-Cons, I guess.
It's also just a faster paced game. It's like
10,000%.
You're weaving around a lot more than you are in Prime. Obviously, Prime has better, like, kind of the strafing. But, like, a lot of time in Prime, you're kind of standing in the same spot.
And this was
game
Prime
expects you to keep moving.
Prime was kind of built around tank controls in regards, and again, like this isn't me. I'm not going to go on a tank controls rant. I got that out of my system very recently. But, it does have a thing of like, you are kind of planted in place while you're shooting, and then the lock on is this. Well, it's like the lock on in Ocarina of Time, where it does allow you that freedom to do a bit of movement, but because you are anchored. The challenge is then, well, you are going to land shots, so then it's just all about, like, positioning. So, they give you a boost, like, left and right, which some modern FPS games have started to implement that. Like, Ghost Runner has that, but they don't... It's so kind of, like, complex, high-level stuff that, like, it hasn't quite set in yet. Versus it works in Prime, because, again, it has the... Like, you are constantly locked on. Whereas, with this, you do have to worry about positioning, but it is in the more old-fashioned... Quake way of you're jumping around a lot, you're just kind of circling around and stuff like that while constantly keeping a bead on an enemy,
and that's what the multiplayer feels like. It's very arena based. I'm gonna liken it again to Kid Icarus Uprising because that game has a very similar feel to its multiplayer, which is probably why I like both of them a lot.
I forgot that game had a multiplayer.
It's great. It's really, really good.
I mean, it's funny like thinking about it like, this like really robust third-person action game, but it's on the Nintendo. It's on the tiny Nintendo 3DS. That thing that you play the Professor Layton games on. It's like, it's got like a God of War game on there. It's pretty good. It's
26 chapters, I think, and then like a really robust multiplayer mode with like 50 weapons or something. It's a stupid game. I don't know how they made it, but
it's because of Sakurai. He just didn't go home. He developed it for 24 hours straight every single day for months.
Sakurai had the vision. Sakurai had the vision, man. He put Pit in Brawl.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, just now. His master plan started with that. By putting Pit, this dude no one knows from this Kid Icarus game from 20 years, put him in Brawl, then make one of the best 3DS games starring him, reviving the franchise, which is great.
It is the best 3DS game, right?
Yeah, I think.
It's
maybe, it's like up there for my favorite, but in terms of like a game that showcases what the 3DS is capable of, it's just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
We should get them on the Mario sports games so they actually come out finished for once. I think that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be alright. God, I had a point about Metroid Prime Hunters, but I've totally forgotten what it was. I guess we were talking about the weapons and have they all have their own kind of unique identities and stuff. And again, it's really cool that Prime sort of teased with the idea, but then after a while they were kind of like, no, let's bring back an ammo system, but it doesn't really matter what the beams are like. It's just kind of... that was my thing. Right, so both of us, we've all played this game very recently, and so I'm hoping that you can all correct me on this. Are the missiles completely useless in Metroid Prime Hunters?
I did not use them very much.
I definitely don't use them much, but like a lot of enemies die in one hit to the missiles.
Okay, I could not get that. Like, I felt like my game was bugged. It was not happy. Like,
they're basically useless against like any of the hunters because you can just out damage them with the headshots. But against like wasps and like the smaller enemies, I think
it feels
pretty
weird
solid.
to use missiles against wasps.
Yeah,
a bit overkill, but
because it's something I don't really go into much in my video, but like. It was the annoying thing about the end of Prime where, like, missiles are my favorite thing in a Metroid game because it is an ammo resource for basically something which isn't like a guaranteed one-hit kill, but it is guaranteed to... Like, Zero Mission's really interesting in that in regards to a charge shot is about as powerful as a missile. So it's basically saying, do you want something that's going to cost a single resource but be very quick? Or do you want something that isn't going to cost a resource but is going to take a couple of seconds to charge? And so it creates an interesting thing of,
I think in Prime it's about the same, right?
Yeah, I want to say it probably is in Prime, except for right at the end with the fucking with the gumdrop brigades when they turn up and they go, oh yeah, fuck you, missiles don't work on us, haha, and it's like, I hate this, sucks, fuck you. Like, why can't I use missiles are guaranteed damage. And then free corruption.
RGB crew.
Yeah, the RGB gamers turn up. Whereas Prime 3 corrects it by going, if you use lock-on, then missiles now have a seeker function. And it's like, yeah, fucking bravo, you have figured out a way to keep lock-on in a game that doesn't no longer need it because it adds extra functionality to missiles, which again are meant to be like the power option. That's why they are a limited resource and why the fun of Metroid is like going and collecting them.
I will say that I've never been a fan of the missiles in Prime 1 and 2 specifically. Maybe Prime 3 as well. I think they're too slow.
Oh yeah, no, they do move really slowly, which is unfortunate.
There's like a big cooldown. There's a glitch in Prime 1 that you can do where you can like rapid fire missiles.
Oh yeah.
But like in Prime, not in Prime, in Zero Mission Fusion, missiles are like so fast. Which is like why they're so enjoyable and why the fact that you get so many of them feels alright because you end up just menacing some bosses with them.
Oh god, yeah, you can like beat Kraid in about 10 seconds just by filling his mouth with fucking missiles.
And that's kind of what I like about the missiles in Hunters. They're kind of they're a lot faster.
They are quick. Yeah.
So I never use missiles in Prime and Prime 2 really. Other than like super missiles.
So I didn't end up using them in Hunters much because it felt like, again, they felt like a kind of a weird middle ground between Power Beam, which is always guaranteed, you always have it, blah, 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 but, it doesn't cost any ammo, but it's, it only does so much damage. And then all the Hunter's weapons that you pick up, which do have ammo, but because of the stupid color match game, because it's a Nintendo game, it had to have a color match game in it. There's little orange boys who fart lava. Oh, I guess they're not going to like the cold beam. And it's like, okay, there we go. Which, we'll talk about... Do we want to talk about the final boss now, or do we want to... We've kind of hopped around a bunch of different topics, and we have not even introduced the Hunters yet, which we'll do in a sec. Yeah, let's talk about the final boss, just because there's not a lot to talk about.
Before we talk about the final boss, I'd like to give a special mention to the cutscenes, which are all really good.
Okay, can I got a funny story about the cutscenes, actually. Mm-hmm. This game is full of pre-rendered CG, and they're done by a Malaysian CGI studio called Silver Ants. Apparently, NST went above Nintendo's heads and paid them like millions of dollars to produce this. Miyamoto found out, reprimanded NS, like took away the last of their budget and said, fuck you, like for doing this. And then rang up Silver Ant and said, never contact Nintendo ever again, and like cut ties with them. Which I just find it so funny in regards to, because, it's a funny thing anyways in regards to Miyamoto that he's so involved in the Prime series despite he had nothing to do with any of the original Metroids or any Metroids afterwards. And yet, during that period on the N64 when... So R&D 1 makes... they make it with Intelligent Systems. They make Super Metroid. And then... Well, they basically put on Game Boy... Well, Virtual Boy and Game Boy duty then for the rest of the 90s. And, Sakamoto... he's like, even though he produced and designed Super, like he becomes a Wario guy after that. Like, not 3, but 4, he produces, like he's the lead producer on that. Whereas nobody's doing anything with Metroid. And Retro Studio. Oh yeah, so we didn't really mention Retro Studios, even though they made the original Prime, which is what Hunters is based on, I guess. So. They're all formed by ex-Acclaim developers, which I guess question to both of you, not even though I kind of know what the answer might be. Have either of you played or know what Turok Dinosaur Hunter is?
I need to play it. I really want to, because obviously.
Okay, well I have some good news for you because we might be playing dinosaur games soon on Bullet Time, so that might be your chance to play Turok Dinosaur Hunter.
Keep it related to Metroid on every level.
Oh, it will be. So, Dark, have you played?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
So Turret Dinosaur Hunter was made by Iguana Entertainment, who were part of Acclaim, did a lot of 2D platformers, but basically Acclaim bought Malibu Comics, who owned the Turok Son of Stone comic. There's a comic book that somebody came up with in the 1950s about, what if a Native American fell off a waterfall and ended up in dinosaur land and hunted dinosaurs with a bow and arrow? Wouldn't that be a fun comic book? And then Malibu Comics ended up with it in the 90s, and like in 90s comic book fashion made it like edgy and cool as fuck. He has a cyber bow and there's cybernetic dinosaurs. And then Acclaim ended up with it, and they decided, why don't we make this a first-person shooter? And more interestingly, why don't we make this an FPS game for the N64, which is shaping up to be a bit of a kiddie console, so why don't we have something which might appeal to an older audience? Ended up doing incredibly well for them as a result. Like, Turret Dinosaur Hunter was like one of the best-selling games on the N64 for that, because this was... They decided doing it in 90... so they basically started work on it in 94, which was the year after Doom came out, and 94 was the year that all the Doom, like all the Children of Doom came out. Like even the sequel to Doom came out that year. So FPS has like never been hotter at this point. And they built a really good relationship with Nintendo, because this was the point as well that everybody was jumping ship over to Sony and PlayStation, like Square and Konami and Capcom. But Acclaim, no, they stood by Nintendo and said, no, don't worry, we building arcade games built on Ultra 64 hardware, so we're still in your pocket. Like, we think you're cool. The guy who founded Iguana Entertainment is a guy called Jeff Spangler, or Spangleberger or something, who got fired for insider trading and said, okay, I'm gonna go start my own company then. Does it in Austin, Texas, calls it Retro Studios, and pencils a second-party deal with Nintendo like a month later. Like, yeah, we're going to be the guys making the first GameCube games for them. And as a result, they get a bunch of developers from N-Space, which is related to the first episode that you were on, Ben, when we talked about Geist. Mm-hmm. Guys from id, because they're based in Texas as well. So all the Doom guys are coming over to work at Retro Studios. And there was another Origin Systems, who were the guys who made like Ultima Underworld and System Shock and stuff like that. So they've got like a really good FPS pedigree. They pitched 4 ideas to Nintendo. Shigeru Miyamoto goes, these are all shit, but I like your action-adventure engine. Do you want to make a Metroid game? Which apparently he could just do, because he was high enough in the company, he could just say, hey, these guys are going to make a Metroid game, even though I have nothing to do with it.
Man, Shigeru Miyamoto is a bad motherfucker.
He really is. He's the baddest of them all. According to somebody at Retro, apparently the way that Miyamoto talked about Prime Toon was essentially the reason that they got the license was he didn't care if they like fucked it up so badly it killed Metroid. He just wanted to see them do something interesting with it. So
I wish you'd think that about F-Zero. But no, he's too worried that they won't find a good enough gimmick to make it work in the modern era.
Yeah, because that's the quote, isn't it? Yeah. Well, yeah, isn't it the one with the French magazine where he goes, this is my question to all you readers. Why do you want another F-Zero? What could we do to make it interesting? But yeah, Miyamoto famously kept giving them ideas of like, what if a head turns into a bug? Yeah. Which they interpreted as, let's give it different visors, which the visor system in Prime is cool. The first level of Prime, the frigate, what was kind of like a little tutorial, because it is essentially like fucking Metroid Prime is just Super Metroid to the extent of you start on a space station that has nothing to do with the rest of the game until you discover, oh wait, it's that space station, which is the ghost ship that I check out later. But they build that little spaceship as the demo of like, here's what we want to do with Metroid Prime. Apparently he played it for like 5 minutes and then gave them like 20 pages of like QA bugs and fixes to make, like fix this, like nonstop. Including stuff like, you should make Samus smaller to make the world seem bigger and stuff like that. But I would say Prime turned out to be a pretty good game.
It was
good
alright.
enough to Yeah, pretty good enough to get 2 more games, and there's Hunters spin-off made by another developer. But
And a pinball game.
pinball game, of course. They didn't have apparently, according to NST, they talked a tiny bit at the beginning of the project with Retro just to kind of get a temperature check, but they were kind of left to do their own thing. But they also agreed that Hunters would be set between 1 and 2, so they wouldn't tread on like any toes with what Retro was going to do. Which is funny in hindsight, considering the fucking Metroid Prime 2 ends like nothing happened. Like, it just literally ends as it began off, and Samus just leaves. Like, oh, I'm done. Bye, everybody. Like, I'm going to give all my abilities back. There you go. That's why it's such a good game, you know? It's like Dark Souls 2. They go against the grain of what the first one did, and, you know, it's a more interesting game because it, you know,
And did it right.
plays with a lot of Metroid Prime tropes and stuff, whereas third one, not so good because they only had, 10 months or whatever to make it.
Not
And it was
long
originally going to
time.
be like a big open world bounty hunting game, and then Nintendo said don't do that because they didn't understand what a bounty hunter was.
I like Prime 3.
I'm a big fan of Prime 3 as well.
I like Prime 3, but it's not my favorite Prime.
It's my
Well, yeah,
second
it's the
favorite.
weakest of the Primes, but it's still a Prime game, which makes it really fucking good.
That's true. I don't like it as much as Hunters, though.
You don't?
No, I think I like Hunters
no.
more than Corruption.
Really?
Yeah, Corruption's got that intro to Corruption really put a bad taste in my mouth. The kind of linearity of it. And all
I
that
guess so,
kind of-
but to me, that was like the coolest thing ever as a kid.
It had a
It's-
lot of stupid Wii gimmicks.
Yeah, I love
really
that.
I really like the drones that turn into a parlor game.
Yeah.
That's cool, I guess. I don't like that she gets infected by the goo and they don't really do anything with it. It just seems kind of stupid. I'm not a fan of that. But this isn't. I mean, we're not gonna cover Metroid Prime 3 Corruption on the podcast. It's too good. Like, that's the problem. Like,
Right.
So I have to get all my opinions about it out now while we're talking about Metroid Prime Hunters. Which, okay, let's do a quick quiz. Which is let's see if you can name the 6 Metroid Prime Hunters that they've added to this game.
There's a 7, isn't it?
No, well, 7
All
including
right,
Samus.
I'm gonna go first because
I know I can do them all, so I'll let you do it.
I don't know them all. So there's Silex,
Of course.
pain in the ass electricity guy.
Silex, who everyone is now part. Well, we're not talking about Metroid Prime 4 yet, but everyone's like, "Oh, that's the Silex game." Though we're gonna get into, everyone's gonna be introduced to Silex, the character, and it's like, I thought that
character.
Hunters gave him a character because of how people talk about him. He's not a fucking character in Hunters.
None of them are.
He's a spaceship. That's the only thing that's interesting about him is he has a spaceship.
But he's an idea, you know? He was an idea planted in a lot of Metroid fans' heads.
He's a set of armor and a lightning gun. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And a bit of backstory of, he hates the Federation. Why? We don't know.
James, that's all we need, if I'm honest. That's all we need.
Jesus. It's not exactly Shakespeare, though, is it?
Well,
So yeah, Silex, pain in the ass electricity guy. Trace, pain in the ass sniper guy.
Spooky Spider guy from the Spooky Spider Empire.
Yeah.
he was looking for ultimate power because that's apparently just what his culture does. They just look for things that are cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they just want big power. Right.
There's Weevil.
Yeah, Weevil, who is
the one
Weevil
that
who
pl-
can turn his legs into a turret.
And also, apparently,
Yeah.
Samus almost killed him on Zebus.
Yeah, apparently he's one of the space pirates from Zevez that she
During Metroid 1, yeah.
yeah, even though wait. Oh no, I guess this did come out after Zero Mission because the space pirates aren't in the original Metroid. They are in Zero Mission
yeah.
though. Oh, wow.
That's cool. By the way, something I'll say about the hunter fights that I really like. Well, I don't know if I say like, but I find it really funny.
Yeah.
Is that all of the hunters have their own morph ball mode.
Yes.
And when they do it, when you fight them, they just keep doing it. It doesn't end. Like you have to hit them out of it.
Some of them, yeah.
And if you don't, they'll just keep doing it forever. Which I think is really funny.
Weevil's the funniest because when his legs are left behind, he runs around on his hands like he's E.T., which made me laugh. Ben, what is Silex's morphball form? I can't remember.
He just turns into an electric spinny thing that places landmines.
I thought that was Noxus who did that.
He places tripwires.
Right. Got you.
It doesn't it doesn't spin. It kind of hovers off the ground.
Got you. And he's a lot easier to deal with in that form.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's a very passive ability.
There's Noxus.
Yeah. Ice person.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember Rock Guy.
Rock Guy, yeah, that's it. Yeah, Rock Monster. Spire.
Yep.
Spire.
Yeah. Who's the last of his kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite
and
sad.
there's a K name I'm forgetting.
It's Kanden.
There is a K one you're forgetting. Kanden's the first guy you fight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kanden, yeah.
He's
the one who turns into the super slug in the space station.
He's a laboratory experiment that went wrong and killed his creators.
I mean, we see that in the CGI intro where he rolls away in slug form and then it explodes behind him.
Which is
very
so
coolly.
Cool.
So cool.
So the game has a movie.
Did I miss any? Is that all of them?
No, that's
all of them.
Yeah, you met Trace, Weevil, Silex, Caden, Spire, Noxus, and of course Samus Aran, but that's who you play as. So, that's fine. Ben, fill us in.
Movie mode is a thing that's included in this game.
Movie
which
mode.
is, you get to look at all the cutscenes. Which for me was a novel concept as a kid because I'd never played a game that had that.
Absolutely not.
So I rewatched the first cutscene over and over because I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I would read up all the backstories. It is a very cool intro. Noxus is really cool because he's basically the premise of the actual game is that there's this ultimate power out there.
In the Amblic system.
Yeah. So Samus is going to. Essentially, she has like 3 different possible outcomes, which is destroy it, secure it, or just make sure no one else gets it. And that's what she's there for. That's what all the other hunters are there for. They're all looking for the ultimate power. And Noxus in particular is funny because the reason he wants to get it is because he wants to keep the galaxy safe as well. So it kind of aligns with Samus's interests, but like. I don't think he trusts the Federation either, which,
that's
is a
funny.
fair...
I like that. They're both working towards the same thing, but they just do not like each other, and it's just like, no, I'm doing it on my terms. You don't know what we're doing. To be
fair, as we've seen in Fusion, the Federation are not a very trustworthy organization.
And then in Dread, they're the ones who are like, hey, why don't we have killbots? Maybe killbots could
that can't be killed by Samus, specifically.
Yeah, they can't. We made them out of a material specifically can't be hurt by Samus, but we gave them, like, they don't even have Norton antivirus on them. They have, like, no security protection whatsoever.
Yeah.
A giant bird whose like highest level of technology was the spaceship to go to the Metroid planet. He would be able to hack them and her AI easy.
But yeah, no, the story leads up to a climax where a fella called Goria.
So basically,
weirdo.
So we never really quite explain what you do in the single player, which is just it's a Metroid game. And actually, it's not a Metroid game because there's no locking, but there's kind of a locking key structure.
Sort of
because
key-ish.
some of the doors you can only open with the special hunter weapons, and so it does create a thing of, now you can open, if you have the green weapon, you can open the green door, and vice versa and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
the levels are not like traditional Metroidvania design thing. They are linear levels twice.
Yes. Ish.
Yeah, no. They do a really interesting thing, which is that. So, Ben, you probably know this guy's name, right? Richard Verodi or whatever, who was like.
Oh, yeah, Verodi.
he's been interviewed by so many people in the Metroid community.
Yeah, I read his Shine Sparker's interview before this.
Yeah, where like everyone's like, "Oh my god, you added Metroid lore, so you're like the most powerful person. Please tell us more." But basically, he was like, not only was he in charge of writing the single player, but he also composed. Basically, he was given the multiplayer levels and said, "Here, make a single player out of this." And so, in that respect, like that is like really impressive what he did manage to pull off, because essentially, yeah, as Darkfry said, and as we kind of alluded to, they're all the arenas that have all been then sequentially put together into kind of simple, very, very simple, like straight shots. Like you don't really go back on yourself or whatever, but then you do 2 loops of the game where you do the first loop to get 4 octoliths, and then you go back to all the previous planets, open the doors that you couldn't before, and then you just get new areas. And in some of them are done naturally, like the lava level, you now open up, oh, there was a power plant here, because, you know, they derive it from, you know, the lava, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Space station. Are you just in fucking space? There's just a big floating space platform. Like,
we got some
okay,
teleports.
sure. Whatever. Who cares? And so, yeah, you essentially do 2 laps of each set of levels. And not long. There may be about, half an hour to beat a piece. Like, versus, say, Talon 4, where, you know, you kind of nurse it over, you know, so many evenings or whatever, and you keep, you know, it's more like a Resident Evil game where you're constantly like backtracking through the mansion and stuff like that, where this is more like the original Resident Evil 4, where you might go back through some previous areas, but you're doing something new. And you get in the octoliths, and as the name suggests, there's 8 of them, and you get them from beating the bosses, and you can only fight the bosses by getting free keys in every level. How do you get free keys in every level? Well, you have to get free keys of the free keys. And how do you get those free keys of the free keys? Sometimes you just find them in the environment. Sometimes you just get them from shooting enough drones.
Yeah.
Whatever, don't worry about it. It's
Scan
fine.
a switch, maybe.
Yeah, you just scan a switch and it just appears. Easy. I think with that stuff, it kind of makes sense in regards to what they wanted to do with the Hunters was which is a cool concept, but they don't quite pull it off, which is the little levels that you can explore, but at any point you can get interrupted by the Hunters, which is cool. Like, just in the middle of like doing a bit of exploration, oh shit, now this is suddenly turned into an arena and you have to change your tactics and stuff. It is a DS game and it was like made by one person, so that stuff is very scripted. It's not super dynamic, but it's a cool it's a cool concept. Like, it's a cool like working, and it's not a bad prototype for something that probably could have been a bit more robust. I think.
You know about if you get killed by an
if you die by a hunter, they take
steal an
one of your
octolith,
octoliths.
Yeah, which I think is a really cool idea. And then they can leave the planet, go elsewhere, and then you have to hunt the hunter to get the octolith back. It's like stuff like that is really cool. It's like a really neat like dynamic, which, like, again, Metroid Prime is one of those rare FPS games which, well, arguably isn't an FPS game. It's a first-person adventure because you don't really do a lot of shooting. But this idea of this kind of like hunt and be hunted, nobody's really done that in like an FPS game then or since, which I think is like a really cool idea. And again, that gives the game juice outside of its boss fights, which, after you get the 8 octoliths and you go back to the snow planet and go in a room, you unlock the last level, and it's not even a level, it's 2 waiting rooms and a boss arena. And as you fight the bosses throughout the game, you get little snippets of lore, and essentially, like every single Metroid game, there was an ancient race who got a lot of power very quickly, and then they fucked it up, and then they had to seal the power away because it got too crazy too fast. But in this case, it was like a monster or a super weapon or something stupid like that, I think. Ben, you can correct me on this.
I'm just double checking actually.
I know his name's Guria.
Yeah.
Which is stupid. Yeah, but basically though,
a mimic of some sort.
the final boss of this game, Darkfry, is kind of like the Emperor Ing from Metroid Prime 2, except not as good.
That's sort of what I figured, because there are points in this game where they will lock you in a room and make you scan some ghosts, I think.
Yeah.
That will tell you the lore of Goria.
Yes. So they're
That's
doing that.
how you get some of the keys to the artifacts, which are the keys to the bosses.
Yes.
I was like, oh shit! I was like in the Celestial Archives, and I was like, oh shit, where's the third key I need to get to the boss? And I went to a room, and if you turn on the scan visor, you see that there's a bunch of ghosts, and if you scan them, they tell you about the past and how they had to seal away
Goria, because he was
this
too damn
really
cool.
big power.
Yeah.
And so it's essentially this thing that's like, they scream at you, basically, don't get the octoliths. If you get the octoliths, you'll revive this horrible power.
Yeah. You'll
And
bring
that
out a
doesn't
bit...
give Samus or anyone pause?
Well,
No, not
in
really.
Samus's defense, a little bit. Her mission was to find out what the ultimate power was, and to seal.
Well,
it
mission
off the grid,
accomplished, I guess, in that state.
Yeah.
And in fairness, all the Metroid games are like, this fucking guy this guy, there's Samus. You're not gonna. And it's like, no, give me an hour. Let me hit my head against the wall. I'll figure it out. And she always does.
And so,
but it's okay. Go ahead.
You unlock the gate.
Yes.
To, this place. I can't remember what it's called.
Goria.
You get to Goria.
It's in the Amblet cluster, but I can't. Just call it the space prison, essentially.
I think it might be,
because that's what
Alanos?
it is.
Might be Alanos.
Yeah,
It's in the rock lava planet.
That's how you unlock
planet.
it. Yeah, but it creates a fifth planet right in the middle of the other four planets.
Yeah, and you go there, and he's doing some interesting stuff to the other hunters. He is.
So you go in, and there's a CGI cutscene where all the hunters are stupidly shooting at it, and then he goes, "Fuck you," and then he basically plugs them in and takes all their powers, and you go, "Oh shit!" So this guy's going to be like the ultimate like AI hunt. Oh, he's going to be like the coolest thing. No, he's a turret who then turns into the totem pole guy who shoots a fucking ball out of his head.
Yeah.
It's so shit.
But there's the funniest part about the fight is that there's two outcomes.
There's two endings. There's two endings of this game, which I had to lock up. I was like, well, first things first, this feels like the bad ending, and second thing second, you didn't tell me I beat the boss, so obviously I fucked something up somehow.
Yeah.
Do I have to get 100% items? Because I am not doing that. I looked up Metro. I can't remember what the Metroid walkthrough website is called, but it's the really nice one where like they've gone through the effort of like labeling everything and whatever. And they're like, no, if you want to beat the final boss, there's a particular trick to it. Now, you know how I was complaining that like each weapon has its like equal and opposite, and it turns into a color match game? Would you believe me if I told you that the final boss and also the arena that he is in is also a color match game?
It's great.
I would believe you, yes. This sounds very on brand.
So, not only does the boss... He basically cycles through all 6 colors of all 6 weapons. And my 30-year-old gamer brain said, well, obviously he matches the color of whatever weapon it is that I need to defeat him with. I get that. What I didn't get was that I needed to pay attention to what sequence he cycles through colors. Because on the walls surrounding him are also big colored buttons, and you have to hit them in that specific sequence in order to get the quote-unquote final boss.
The final boss is Simon Says?
The final boss is Simon Says.
Except Simon is saying it with sign language, and you don't really know sign language.
And also Simon wants to kill you.
Yes.
Yeah, Simon is telling you, it's not even in a language, it's just, you have to intuit that, oh, well, there's 6 colors on the wall, so maybe that matches the colors that here. I guess on a long enough, like, if you have all the, like, I got a lot of energy cells, so I had a lot of time for that fight. You could just brute force the solution, because they don't reset it. Like, you can just try all 6 until you get 1, then try all 5 until you get 1, then try all 4, and, so on and so forth. But yeah, and then you unlock the final boss, where they give you the ultimate weapon.
The Omega Cannon.
The Omega Cannon. And it's really boring.
You just shoot him.
You just shoot him, and you have to wait 2 seconds, like, reloading between each shot. And every time you shoot him, he warps to another part of the arena, but not that far because the arena's really small.
Yeah, there's not much to that fight. You beat him, and then you get thanked by the dead Olympics.
Oh yeah, they say thanks, Samus.
Give you a thumbs up.
Yeah, she gives it. Yeah, she waves her hand and then walks through the portal at the end of Prime 2.
Yeah, but I want to just highlight the bad ending because I think bad endings are fascinating.
Okay,
mostly because
I didn't get the. Okay, so go ahead.
As a kid, I had no idea that there was actually a good ending in these games. So in Pikmin 1, I ended up going to 30 days. And at the end of Pikmin 1, if you haven't got all the necessary
you
shit
turn
parts
into
of
a Pikmin.
Pikmin 1, yeah, they just turn you into a Pikmin. It was traumatizing.
Fuck a lot.
Oh, did you not know this about Pikmin 1?
I did not know this.
It's great.
Gee,
You try to launch into space, the ship crashes. It doesn't have enough fuel or whatever to get up to into space, out of the atmosphere.
Olimar is ejected out of the ship and is fucking dead.
Pretty much, yeah. So the Pikmin lift him up and carry him into the onion.
Take them back to their bulb, where he is then immediately turned into another Pikmin.
It's great.
Oh my god.
It's fucking cool.
And it's just sort of
there's a couple of different endings in Pikmin. Like, even if you get the one which is like by the skin of your teeth, he's like, I'm such a fucking failure. I can't believe I managed to get off this planet. I suck so much.
But yeah, in Prime Hunters, the ending that you get if you don't if you just beat Guria, you just fight the boss, which I thought was, as a kid, I'm like, well, you just have to kill him, don't you?
That's just the final boss. Yeah, that makes sense.
You kill the final boss. Then the space station, like, Samus is like, okay, the only way I'm going to be able to stop this guy is if I keep fighting him. And then she's like, well, the space station is going to explode, and I'm going to explode with it. Oh, shit. So the whole...
and then they just cut to the station exploding with no, like, fanfare.
That's it. It just sort of ends. And as a kid...
Roll credits.
I was like, wow, she's dead. That's it. The one thing that was really eluding me, the one thing that really, really annoyed me, and I spent ages trying to figure out what it was, because for some reason at the time I didn't have access to walkthroughs or anything.
Sure.
There were like 2 missing cutscenes in the cutscene gallery, and I tried everything.
Okay.
I tried absolutely everything, and eventually I had to give up because I was like, well, I just don't know. Until like a few years later, I was eventually able to replay the game. And
you were reading Nintendo official magazine, and
Possibly,
they said, "Hey, fucker, did you know?
did you play Simon Says?"
Yeah. Did you notice that the big color? You know those decorative panels on the wall? No, they're not decorative.
Have you tried shooting them?
Did you try shooting them with the limited ammo that you have?
God, it was yeah.
God, I'm trying to think. Is there anything we haven't? It looks okay for a Nintendo for a game for a console that wasn't as powerful as the N64. Looks okay.
I'm a big fan of the environments. I think
and honestly, it does. There are a lot of points where it does nail the Metroid Prime ambience.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, there were like points where it impressed me.
It's got a cool vibe to it. I like the music a lot.
So anytime you fight a hunter, even though I was taking the piss, those hunter tracks are like, they do get you pumps, which I think is cool.
And they all have their own instrument that goes into them.
They're all kind of built on the same drum machine track, but yeah, they all have their own kind of like rhythm section, which has its own different instrument, which is neat.
Yeah, and one of the another interesting fact about that is that Trace and Noxus, when you first encounter them together, they have overlapping instrumentation, which is really cool.
I didn't know that. That's a really nice touch.
Yeah. Then the other thing I want to say, and this is unfortunately a negative, I think this game had a big missed opportunity that could have like made it a lot more interesting. With the hunter abilities, like actually playing as the different hunters in multiplayer is really fun. So I kind of wish, maybe not just playing as them, but even just unlocking their morph ball forms as well. Because a lot of them have like unique things. Like Spire kind of has a spider ball type thing going on with him.
Oh yeah.
Trace, it goes invisible and stuff. And it just would have been cool to have those somewhat incorporated into the single player in some way.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have had to have changed much. Because like they don't refer to Samus like as a like, hey Samus, you got to go do this. So like they could have just had like, yeah, you could play the story mode as like any of the characters. Would have been quite cool.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, granted, they would have had to have given the power beam something outside of like what it usually does, but
just any way to incorporate them, I think, would have been nice. Just because they have, the unique
Maybe
abilities are a bit too wasted on the multiplayer.
But not only that, but like in the multiplayer mode, I remember seeing screenshots of this. Again, going back to the aesthetics qualities of it, which I think is kind of something that is totally lost in this era of like very clean and flat UI. All of the hunters have their own. So the way that the game is composed is that on the top screen is what you see through Samus's visor, but then on the bottom is almost kind of like a control deck, which looks like her suit. And every hunter has their own unique like widget and UI. And
yeah, it's really cool.
It reminds me of like Windows XP, where you could have like all the different skins for the media player and stuff. Which, yeah, very neat. And again, it goes to that extra effort of like, these completely alien creatures, what were their like computers and interfaces look like? Again, very, very neat. Like they do a lot to like kind of push the concept beyond just, what if it was multiplayer Metroid? Because they could have just very easily have done Prime 2. Because I'll say that. I know it's like comparing like a steak and steak flavored crisps.
I know what you're about to say, yeah.
Hunters is better than Prime 2's multiplayer, like, leaps and bounds.
I got a lot of mileage out of Prime 2's multiplayer, but it's not very good.
And I'm sure that the Wii version is better because it's a control scheme better built for FPS, but like those GameCube games are like, they are adventure games. Like the pacing of them is, you do shoot, but that's like secondary to like platforming and exploration and stuff. So putting like a deathmatch mode in that just did feel like, what was like, did you just do this because you could?
Well, you say that, but it did have the death ball, which is
excuse me, what is the death? What is the death ball?
You turn into a morph ball with like a giant electric sphere going around it that kills anything it touches. Cool. But you can't use any of your abilities, so you just if someone goes above you, you can't get to them anymore. So it's good time. There's also like some other fun abilities, but yeah, Prime Hunters is definitely the more fleshed out game, especially in terms of like modes as well and like maps.
And it's weird because they never really developed, because then Corruption came out and that had like no multiplayer stuff in it, despite the fact that you would think that it could be they could build on the one from 2 and they have this new control scheme, and like the Wii was like built for online as well, but like it didn't quite pull it off. And then Federation Force kind of brings it back, but it's not. I mean, it does have Metroid Blast Ball, everyone's favorite mini mode of those games.
What an announcement for the game!
I mean, don't you remember that is how they announced the game?
Yeah, they did a fucking Nintendo
they brought back the
World
Nintendo World Championship like concepts. And it was like, you're gonna be playing a bunch of different games, and some of them you've never seen before.
Yeah, here's a game called Blast Ball. Nothing else.
Metroid Blast Ball.
Well, they didn't even call it Metroid at first. It was the day before E3, so they called it Blast Ball.
It was just called Blast Ball, right?
Yeah, and then the day later they said, "Hey, this is Metroid, by the way."
Oh, and then they were like, this is going to be the 3DS Metroid game, and people were like, what? And it was like, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be a side mode of the main game. Oh, cool. But you can play as Samus in the main mode, right? Like pulling their collars. Because Blast Ball was so funny as well, because it was like, it wasn't like the year after Rocket League came out. It was like the year after Rocket League became like the biggest game in the world. So it just kind of seemed like, is this Nintendo's weird way of like cashing in on that?
Who knows?
Darkfry, are you a Blast Ball fan?
I haven't played it.
No.
I
Ever,
played the
so
demo once. I
not-
didn't think
no.
it was very good.
But have you played Federation Force?
No.
Okay. I have, but only through an emulator. I might go back and properly play it on 2DS hardware to see if I get more mileage out of it. But
I really want to play it with 3 other people, but it's
so yeah. I mean, it is like this because I think this was made around the
Federation
time that, like,
Force game night.
Oh yeah, we
if
could.
possible,
The
but I-
the first bullet time sanctioned game night where we're all going to play Federation Force.
start to finish
It's-
one sitting.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, because that was like at the height of what Monster Hunter fever. So they were like, we need to have our own Monster Hunter style game. From which they meant we need a 4-player co-op game that people can play locally or play over the net. But yeah, it's weird playing that and Hunters back to back and going like, oh, the only thing that like they got out of the Metroid Prime games, like the thing that makes a game specifically Metroid Prime is it has to have a scan visor. And it's already half-baked in Hunters, but like it barely gets like it's in Federation Force, but like there's like you only use it to activate buttons. It's so
Yeah.
shit. Like which you remember in the old Metroid games where if you wanted to open a door, you shot it? Why can't you just do that? Wouldn't that be easier? No, you got to scan a button. It's like, oh, cool. Very neat. So, yeah, they haven't really done much more with the Hunters concept, except, I guess, if people think that Metroid Prime 4 is picking up where 3 left off, and Federation Force, actually, because both games end on a tease of Silex, weirdly. This really cool character that we all know and love for having a lightning gun and a spaceship.
A fan favorite, if you will.
A fan, yeah, fans absolutely they cannot get enough
Listen,
Silex.
I want to see Silex return in Metroid Prime 4 if we get to personally kill him.
Actually, fair point. You have got like an actual, not rivalry, but like you want to get revenge on Silex now for his stupid
Yeah,
lightning
fuck
gun.
this guy.
Yeah.
Just, I'll never forget the trauma of that encounter.
Yeah. No, that is
To be
that
fair,
is fair.
it's all stolen technology, so it's implied that the Galactic Federation made that gun.
That's true. Yeah. Did they just stop development on it like immediately afterwards? Like,
They're
oh,
like, this
shit,
sucks.
Yeah. Oh fuck! Oh, we stole our gun, and the gun had all the schematics on it as well. We have no idea how to make that gun again.
And also, I know we're supposed to be using this on enemies, but I still think it's too cruel.
Yeah, it's really harsh that we're using this to electrocute zoomers
Yeah, like,
and
okay, so to be fair, when you get Silex's weapon for yourself, it is as overpowered as when he uses it.
I will
Do
say
you know it
as well.
heals you in the multiplayer?
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that. I just realized as well, the fact that you can get his weapon, but he also still has his weapon, means that they made two of them.
This is this is one
We're
of
getting
the,
into deep lore here now.
yeah.
folks,
I don't
but,
think they've really thought that part through very much.
I'm gonna ask you, Darkfry, because designing Metroid Prime 4 I think would be a bit of a big ask because we don't really know what it looks like. But if you were to remake Metroid Prime Hunters, because you did not enjoy it, it is the game that Darkfry has forced you to play for the podcast.
Yeah.
I guess what would you do differently? What would you change to make it a better game?
So, well, the main issues I have with it are the level design and the controls.
Sure.
So, but the concept itself is great.
Okay.
So you don't really change anything about the concept and how it works, but you make the controls better by making it more like, you know, no need to reinvent the wheel. Make it like the other Prime games.
Okay.
And in a console that can facilitate that.
Okay.
And have like clearly the rooms where the hunters can appear to try to mess you up are gonna be scripted. Like there's gonna be specific rooms where they can show up. But the player doesn't have to know that.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think there's a way to do it where, like, there's different... So there's different areas, right? And it tells you where they are.
Yeah.
In case you need to be the one hunting them.
Oh, yeah. They give you some kind of system to make it easier to hunt the hunters.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So like in the map select screen in Hunters, they tell you where each hunter is.
Oh, do you know that I had no idea this game had a map in it until like the final 10 minutes? I had no. I was like, "What's this on the?" I was like, I don't think I ever checked the pause because whenever I wanted to pause the game, I just closed the DS, and so I never thought to pause it at any point. And I was like, "Oh wait, is this a map?"
The map, the map is very bad, by the way.
Oh, the map is hideous. Like the map,
yeah.
The map was made by somebody who didn't play or knew anything about the game. It's awful.
Yeah. It doesn't tell you anything. Like I in the first so in the first area, the first time you visit the first area, right when the game starts, the Celestial Archives is this really confusing area.
Yes.
that is 3 repeating levels on top of each other.
Yeah,
it's like
the rooms that you go through are identical at every single corner,
like
which there is a door.
Yeah, it's like this big cylinder, and you go through each level, and the rooms that you have to traverse to go through them are identical, and the corridors that you need to go from one room to another to get to the next level are also identical.
Yeah. You know, did the thing happen? Oh, sorry, I was going to say, did the thing happen to you that happened to me, which was... so every boss fight ends with so every single boss fight ends with a Metroid escape sequence.
Yes.
Where you have to get back to the ship. And it's the stupidest thing because they call it security lockdown, and it's like, okay, but what does that look like? And what it looks like is Samus immediately dies for some reason. Okay, whatever.
Yes.
Doing that part the first time and the second time, I kept getting fucking spun around and not knowing where to go.
In the first area, it's pretty bad because the rooms...
Because they respawn the fucking Guardians and lock the door each time.
Well,
it's so shit.
That and the fact that there's like there's a central room with 4 different parts, and then there's tunnels on the 8 surrounding it, and it gets so fucking confusing.
Yes, and they
so
do that
shit.
3 times. There's 3 levels of that look identical to each other, and the map does not help you.
No.
I tried checking the map. It does not tell you where to go. It does not help, and it does not tell you where you are. It does not tell you where the ship is.
Yeah.
The map does not tell you where your ship is. That was my biggest issue. I was like, I have no idea where my ship is located, and I need to go back to my ship to escape this damn planet. I have no idea where that is. I don't know where that is. And I just came from there. And
even though they give you a portal to get back to the ship whenever you want, they turn the portal off during the escape sequences.
Yes, and this is the first area.
Yep. Yeah,
where you don't, and it's the first area, and it's by far the most confusing layout wise.
It is the, it is the you know how like most games they design like the first levels last because at that point they've known like all the mechanics, and like Bob on Battlefield was like the last level they designed for Mario 64, and like that is such a perfect level in regards of telling you where to go. This was like the first level they designed for the game because it is so shit.
Yeah.
So bad.
And not only that, the second time you come to the Celestial Archives, which is this first area, the second time you arrive here, they take you through a bunch of teleporter puzzles. And
Oh
rooms.
yeah, and then you have to
Which
do
is
the you have to
my
do the
favorite
teleporters
thing.
on the way back. Is great.
My favorite thing. I have to remember on the way back. I have to remember which teleporter to take.
Oh yeah, and make sure you don't accidentally slip off a platform, which is a lot easier to do because they're fucking tiny and your movement controls are borks.
Yeah, and your jump is all weird, and there's also some enemies that shoot at you, and you have Castlevania knockback.
Oh, guys, yeah, you do. Fuck. This really is a Metroidvania game. I forgot.
Yeah,
It's a funny game.
yeah, like there's an area.
This game
there's
is
one
a practical
area.
joke. Yeah.
There's one area with a tiny moving platform with a bottomless pit
Yep.
on below it, which you instantly die at, and there's infinitely spawning. This doesn't have a spawner that you can shoot at.
No.
Unlike other rooms, you can't stop them from spawning. They infinitely spawn. They shoot at you, which you can't stop. You can't avoid. And if they hit you, you go like 2 meters back.
Yep. When
This
you go,
game is great.
Oh, this game is
is
fantastic. I guess to kind of sum it up, then you would probably, if they had built this for the GameCube and maybe given it like an extra 3 months of polish, it would probably. Because I kind of think that's what I feel about this as well. Is that we complain about this game a lot. This game is incredibly charming because of its flaws, but I also think that like another month in the oven would probably fix this game. Like would
Yes,
probably
like-
fix the majority of issues I have with this game.
Honestly, this like the conclusion, like the conclusion in the alternate universe Darkfry and Tentuber video
Yes.
would be like would have me saying some surprisingly nice things about this game and saying that it actually has a lot of potential. And that's what makes it so frustrating, that it
Yes.
doesn't nail what its ideas that it has.
It's why I think this is. I'm glad that we've done this for Bullet Time because one, I love Metroid and I want to just talk about Metroid games, but this is the perfect way to do because I think Federation Force hasn't really got enough going wrong for it to kind of like dig into it. Whereas I think that this is an interesting misfire in that there was enough kind of going wrong behind the scenes in regard. Well, NST is a bit of a weird one as well, is because like they're the most. I don't want to say abused because that's not quite the right term and it's a bit gross, but in regards to like all of Nintendo's subsidiaries, they are like treated the worst by like regular Nintendo because basically the moment that like Arakawa left, just Nintendo of Japan just like fucking hung them out to dry. They had a project for the Wii called Project Hammer, which just kind of lingered in development hell for ages, and then they pulled the plug on it. And there's an interview with it's not Miyamoto, but it is a Japanese guy at Nintendo who basically said, "Oh, well, they couldn't pull it off because they're shit. Like they don't have they're not a proper development house. They're just QA guys, and as a result, like they would never make a good game." And it's like, well, they made Wave Race Blue Storm, and they made fucking Metroid Prime Hunters, so they're not that bad of a developer, I don't think. But
What's his name? Richard Verodi went on to. He's I can't remember the Riverbank game.
he's at Gunfire. He works
Gunfire, that's
on
one. Remnants.
Darksiders and Remnants from the Ashes and stuff like that. Yeah, he ended up in a lot of. He did pretty well for himself after that. Like a comic book artist works at NST, like and help come up with all these designs for the Hunters, and he's gone off to do like tons of stuff after this. Like the people who worked on this game have all kind of landed on their feet, fortunately, but just. NST as a developer just got really, well, yeah, like they just got put in the fucking mini Mario dungeon for like the rest of their career. Which those games are okay, but they're not very, like an AI could make those games. They probably do at this point. I'm so excited for Tipping Stars to come out on the Switch, made by ChatGPT. That's gonna be great. But I don't know. We got any final thoughts, I guess? Because, yeah, like I said, I think this was a good bullet time game to cover because it is such an interesting misfire. But also, we hadn't done a proper portable FPS game. And I think it is one of those things that I do have a soft fascination for genres and concepts that are kind of they have to be reworked a lot for their hardware. And this was like, the DS I think is still like my favorite all-time console because of how many weird games and like a lot of very, very good games just came out of that weird controls system that it had, but also like the 2-screen display, I think just led to so many like cool opportunities, you know?
I'm kind of thankful it didn't come out for the 3DS actually, because it would have they would have done some gyro shit.
But that Federation Force was sold on that, so jeez. Ben, thoughts?
I just really like it. I'm very nostalgic for it.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I appreciate what it went for on the hardware it was on. I love the DS. I think
Yes.
the game just looks really cool and kind of invokes that era really nicely.
Yeah. It also hits that thing as well, which I forgot to say with like, there was this like there was this term going around in art circles for a while called demakes, where this feels like a demade version of Prime because it's like it's kind of like a weird glimpse into what would have a Metroid game maybe have looked like on the N64, which I think is cool. It's a kind of a cool what if, and like the control scheme itself is kind of does feel like an N64 game, but it's weird. It's a console that could barely run Super Mario 64, and yet it is a really good shooter. Well, when you use it with a stylus, it is a really good shooter control scheme, I think. Which obviously they made more robust then with like Kid Icarus turning that into a third-person shooter, and I guess it's just kind of a shame now that the Switch isn't its own thing. Like it is just a portable console, and so all you now do have are console-style FPS games, which, going back to the remaster of Prime, it's twin stick, there's no weird. I mean, you can play it with gyro if you want. You can play it with the original controls if you want. But I guess I think this is probably where Metroid's just gonna go from here. Even though we're never gonna see Prime.
I haven't played the remaster yet.
It's very good.
It's good.
I hear are glowing reviews.
It's
so
it's the same game, but it looks really good.
It looks really nice, and the new control. Well, it's the Wii control scheme, but it's just nice to play it on a controller. Yeah. So it's good.
Which works.
I'm putting my money bet down though. We're gonna see another Mercury. We're gonna see Mercury Steam's Metroid 6 before we see Metroid Prime 4.
I don't think we are. But
I think either that or a Mercury Steam Metroid spin-off where you play as Silex, but it's 2D. They're gonna beat them to it.
Anyway,
let's see.
I think we got some charts, don't we?
We do. We got the charts. Darkfry, you haven't been on an episode yet, so we're doing a quiz. Are you excited?
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, sure. You're excited for the quiz, or yeah, sure. Let's do a quiz.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's do a fucking quiz.
Let's quiz it up. I haven't got any more notes about this game, so let's go for the quiz. So this game came out March 20th, 2006, which means that it qualified for the charts March 25th. I'm using VG charts for this to basically tell you what the top 10 games were that came out the week this would have qualified. All I need you and Ben to tell me. Well, you're gonna race each other to try and get the answer. I'm gonna give you clues and you're gonna tell me what the games were in the 10 slots of this week. Before we start, though, do you think Metroid Prime Hunters qualify for the charts?
Launch title for the DS?
No.
Well, it wasn't a launch title. This was 2 years after the DS's. Oh, a year and a half, 16 months after the DS's.
The demo was launch.
Yeah, the demo was a launch game. Yeah, no, this is for the full game, Hunters.
Yeah, I don't think
Chance
it
is
did,
top 10, right?
Well, we're going to go for the top 10, but do you think it made the charts?
Well,
I don't think it did.
You think it did? Darkfry,
no,
you don't
I
think
don't,
it made
I don't
the
think it did either, but...
Oh, neither of you think it made the charts?
No.
Interesting.
No, actually, how many games are on the charts?
Well, I think they go up to like 50.
Surely it did. Yeah, I'll go yeah. I bought it.
Okay. All right. Ben, you're correct. It did make the charts. But what number do you think?
Like 48.
So Metroid Prime Hunters qualified number 2 this week on the charts.
What?
It sold 85,000 copies in its launch window.
Wow. And they say Metroid
Damn.
doesn't sell well. It doesn't, but...
Well, well, here's the thing. Isn't Hunters... Wasn't it... Well, I think Dread might have overtaken it, but wasn't Hunters the best-selling Metroid game in the
No,
series?
it was Prime.
What, the original Prime?
Yeah. Let me go to...
Wow.
I'll do a little...
Even with the power of the DS, the DS, the power... You literally put anything on the DS and it became a sales success. I think the remaster of Prime 1 might be coming up the rear now as well, because the Switch, just like anything you put on it, just
We'll
sells.
do a quick mini-game top 5.
Okay.
Go for number 1.
Okay, all right, Ben is now doing his own quiz, right.
It's a quiz within a quiz. Number 1?
Okay, all right, so number 1's Metroid Prime.
No. You just said...
Okay, it's not... It's Metroid Dread.
Yes.
Wow, fucking power of the Switch, baby. Then it's Metroid Prime.
Yes.
Then it's Metroid Hunters.
No.
Metroid Prime 2.
No.
Metroid the original.
Yes. That is number 3 at
And then is
2.73
it-
million.
Wow. And then is it Return of Samus for the Game Boy?
Actually, it might be. I don't have a... There's not a list that's the problem, so I can have
God damn it.
It is, yes. It is Metroid 2.
Okay.
Return of Samus.
And then it's probably Zero Mission, unless they count that as part of original Metroid.
It is not Zero Mission by quite a lot.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is it 2? Oh, is it Corruption?
No, it's... I'll give you
Is it
this.
Pinball?
No. It's Super Metroid. Which...
Oh,
no, sorry. It's
I'm
Metroid
surprised.
Fusion. Metroid Fusion.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good for Fusion.
Fusion got 1.6
Fusion
million.
sold better than Super?
Yeah, 1.6
Yeah.
million. Super sold 1.42
Here's the thing,
million.
Super Metroid... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Prime 3 sold 1.41 million, so just a little bit less. And then we go down to Prime 2, which is 1.1 million. And what is next? Prime Hunters at 1.08 million. And then everything else, other than that, sold below 1 mil.
So here's the thing, Darkfry. Despite the fact that like Super Metroid is like one of the most influential games of all time, it didn't sell very well on the SNES. Partially because they didn't push it well. Partially because Metroid doesn't sell very well in Japan, and that's where Nintendo was like focusing a lot on the SNES era for obvious reasons, because they could look outside their door and go, "Oh, the game's selling." But also like the Super Nintendo, in a weird way, only had like Super Mario World and like one of the Final Fantasies were mega hits, but everything else was kind of like. Oh no, and Donkey Kong Country also was like a gigantic hit for the Super Nintendo. But it didn't, versus like the Mega Drive, well, the Genesis Mega Drive, it didn't really, a lot of the games didn't sell super well, which is partially why going into the 64 era was such a bunt, because it didn't really help them out. But then it didn't matter, because the Game Boy, basically, like, everyone had a fucking Game Boy, so like that sold super well. I forgot to get my facts in about Metroid Fusion, which is made by the Wario Land 14. And basically, well, that's one fact. And the second fact is that they showed off Metroid Prime at Space World, and because of the reaction it got, they went to R&D1 and said, "Do you want to make can you make a 2D Metroid game for the American market? Because I think like a double bubble, basically. Like, you know, let's see if we can get more fans on it." And Fusion did really well because it's a GBA game. But yeah, none of the original, well, most of the people who worked on Super had like retired at that point, because a lot of them were like old school, like Nintendo vets. But so yeah, the Wario Land 4 team made it, and they used the same engine, and they reworked a lot of that game. It's not really, you don't really do a lot of exploration. It's kind of linear, but that's why I like it. Because it reminds me of Wario. So there we go.
What's your favourite fun fact? I don't know if a conversation goes by where we don't discuss that.
What about Wario? Yeah, I can't. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, number 2 in the charts this week: Metroid Prime Hunters, 85 units sold. So number 1 in the charts for both of you to guess: Xbox 360 game, role-playing game, one of the early hits for the console, Western RPG.
Skyrim? No.
Ooh, it's
that
not
was way
Skyrim,
earlier.
but you're close.
It's the earlier one, Oblivion.
Yes, it is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion for the Xbox 360. 200. This was a new entry. 200,000 units sold on its Thursday.
Ooh.
Oblivion was a big hit because
Yeah.
Morrowind was a massive hit on the original Xbox, so people were fucking hyped for Oblivion. And
Wow.
I would say to kind of right to be, but that game is aged beyond belief.
On its first day,
graphics-wise.
sold better than Metroid Prime, Federation Force, and Sam's Returns combined all time.
There we go. See, why isn't Metroid Prime 4 an RPG? They make more money.
Yeah.
Here's a game which I think both of you will struggle to get, so I'll try and help you out as much as possible. It's in its third week. Xbox 360 game. Ubisoft published FPS game.
Ubisoft
Were the
published
Splinter
FPS
Cells?
game.
They weren't. the
It's not a
FPS.
Splinter Cell, but it is a Tom Clancy game.
Okay. I don't know what the
Rainbow.
name-
It's not a Rainbow Six. If you get the sub-series, I'll give it to you.
Wildlands is the name of a. No, I don't think
It's not... Well, Wildlands is part of the sub-series.
Yeah. Ghost
Is
Recon?
it Killzone? No.
It's Ghost Recon, isn't it?
No, it's PlayStation.
I'll give it to Ben. Yeah, it is Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, but specifically, it is Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter.
Oh,
for the
wow.
Xbox 360.
Never heard of it.
No. I will give you two facts about this game. One, it's made by Grin, who we'll probably cover on the podcast at some point. They're the ones who made the reboot of Bionic Commando, where he
no.
has dreads and his cool arm. Second
And his
thing,
wife is his arm. Oh, spoilers.
yeah, his wife is his arm. Yeah. And the second thing is that it's one of those games that looks like a fake video game because it's very UI minimal, and the amount of post-processing effects on it, it looks pre-rendered. Like it doesn't look good, but it looks like nothing I've ever seen before. So I'll give it that. Number 4 on the charts is another new entry, and it's another Ubisoft game. This one is a flight sim in a series that I've never heard of. So what I will say is that if you can guess what war it's about, I'll give you the points.
Vietnam.
It's not about the Vietnam War.
World
Darkfry.
War II.
It is about World War II. It is Blazing Angels,
okay, yeah.
Squadrons of WW2.
No.
Ben, don't tell me you've heard of
I've
this
heard
game.
the name. I feel like it's an old arcade shooter.
Blazing Angels, I think is, and I think this might have been like the latest entry in it. But
That might
yeah,
actually
they're
be-
not making a lot of Blazing Angel games.
Okay, never mind. That's
anymore.
completely wrong. It's not.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking of like.
You're,
What's the other one?
you're
wait,
thinking
no.
of Ace Combat, right?
No, I'm thinking of I don't know. There's like a Burning
Afterburner?
Thunder or something. There's an arcade like twin stick shooter that has a similar name.
Fair enough. Well, if anybody who's listening knows, please leave us a 5-star comment where you can give us the answer. Number 5 on the charts is another new entry. This one you two might get. Nintendo DS game.
Oh.
Nintendo published. Massive hit. And it was like kind of a return of a franchise which people associate with Nintendo, but isn't really a Nintendo game, making its DS debut.
This is 2006.
Yes.
Associate with Nintendo.
Well, associated maybe more with the Game Boy than Nintendo.
Oh,
Is this
Golden
like
Sun.
Fire Emblem?
It's, no, right?
It's not Fire Emblem. Ben, what did you say?
Golden Sun Dark Legacy, is it?
It is not Golden. It is not Golden Sun Dark Legacy. No.
Is it Advance Wars?
It is not an Advance Wars. No. Bigger franchise. Think way bigger.
Oh, right. Oh, Pokemon Diamond.
Ooh, no, not Pokemon. Like I said, this is a Nintendo published game full of Nintendo characters, but the game itself
right.
has nothing to do with Nintendo.
Oh, is it Tetris DS?
It is Tetris DS. 30,000 units sold in its first day. Good game as well.
Yeah,
Like
I've heard
Tetris
it's one of the
DS.
better Tetrises.
And it's full of like 8-bit sprites and stuff before that.
Tetrai?
Tetrai, yeah.
Is that the plural?
Tetronimos.
No, what are the Tetris? Well, they're called Tetraminos.
Yeah.
Like Tetris is the name of the game, but the pieces themselves are called Tetraminos. So, number 6 on the charts, and it's 5th week. EA Sports game, not football. A sport that people do. Trying to. A sport that Nintendo have made games about previously.
Is it Pro Evolution Soccer?
Is not Pro Evolution
It's,
Soccer.
is it the NBA? Not NBA. What's it called? NLB?
It's not NFL football.
No, NLB.
It's not grid. It's
Baseball.
not baseball.
Okay.
No.
Golf?
It is not. It is not Mario Golf. No. Big NES game that then got a
Tennis?
Wii reboot.
Oh.
What?
In regards to like Nintendo sports stuff, let me think of a person who is associated with this sport is Mike
Punching.
Tyson. Yes, punching. It's a punching
is
game.
it boxing?
It is a
NFL?
boxing game.
I don't know the
which,
name.
EA's Boxing Simulator 2006.
no, I guess I don't think either of you would know this friend. Like Snake would.
Like, I don't know the name of the game, but it's an EA Sports boxing game that came out in 2006.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I've heard of it, and that's just don't remember.
Okay, I will give you a point each then. No. Fight Night Round 3.
Okay,
for the
yeah, I've heard of
Xbox
Fight Night,
360. Yeah. Fight Night Round 2 for the GameCube, by the way, features Super Punch-Out.
Oh, that's cute.
And another cute
good game.
detail about that. Super Punch-Out is not a good game.
Oh,
Bad
okay, yeah.
game. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You've convinced me.
I
guess
only
it
like
is-
the Wii one, so
Is it really? I've only the only thing I know about that game is the Summoning Salt video.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Summoning Cell video
a
about
good
Super Punch-Out.
That's all my exposure for Super Punch Out.
My fun fact is that the version that's in Fight Night Round 2, the first NES emulator, which was called Nesticle, the developer of that was at EA at the time and developed an SNES emulator specifically for that game for the GameCube, and it's called Snesticle. You can have a look in the code, and there it is.
Oh.
So, very cool.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the name.
Yeah, it's 3 kids. Number
Smalls.
7 in the charts in its 31st week, a Nintendo DS game, maybe the most Nintendo DS game, famously based on one of Miyamoto's hobbies.
Cave spelunking.
Yeah, Cave Spelunking 2006. No,
Cooking Mama.
not Cooking Mama. No, that wasn't made by Nintendo.
Cooking Miyamoto.
Cooking Miyamoto.
One of his more famous hobbies.
Yeah,
it was.
I'd like to see that box art.
What if this cooking had a bug's head? What does that mean?
Well, I know he likes gardening.
Which is where he got the idea for Pikmin.
I know he likes
And
going to Japanese temples, which he thought of. Oh, what if we flew starfighters
Yeah,
through these?
going through gates was for Star Fox. This was based on him and his family had recently done something, and he thought that it would be interesting to make a game about it. This was
Animal Crossing.
No, but it is animal related. This was a big crossover hit.
Nintendogs.
It is Nintendogs.
Is that a hobby?
1.8 million units sold of this game. Fucking Nintendogs was a smash ass hit.
What would
for
you
most
call
people.
that a hobby?
Well, no. So there. Well, yeah. No, it was a hobby for him because he basically said the story was, we bought a dog for the first time, and I was having fun like raising it, and I said this might be a fun game. I mean, I don't know. I haven't played Nintendo, so I can't say that. Is it? I haven't played it. Is it a good game?
Yeah, I mean it.
Okay, you just pet I mean, I've played Pokemon on me, which is kind of
It's
like
not
Nintendo.
like
Are
that.
there any video essays out there on
I'll make
Nintendogs?
if I have to.
There we go. Ben's staking his claim. He's flagging that moon. There we go.
Like, Nintendogs is genius, here's why.
There we go.
Well, it being genius, here's why. I mean, it sold a quadspillion copies, but...
Nintendogs is not a dog's dinner of a game.
Yeah.
There we go. Number 8 on the charts in its 4th week is another Nintendo DS game. One starring a Mario character.
Princess Peach, Super Princess.
Yes, it is Super Princess Peach. 91,000 copies sold. I'm still shocked by when we did the Black, because this is good in regards to like this game came out a few weeks after Black, and so it's a very similar charts that we're doing to that. But yeah, Snake immediately got Super Princess Peach, a person who I didn't even think knew who Princess Peach was.
Yeah, that is actually maybe the most surprising thing you've told me.
Yeah, well, there we go. Yeah, the most surprising thing I know about him. He also got Nintendogs pretty quickly as well. Number 9 on the charts in his second week, PlayStation Portable game, spin-off of a Naughty Dog game, starring a funny sidekick.
Jak and Daxter, the PSP one.
Yeah, but what's it called?
Jak and Daxter Portable.
I'll make it easier for you. It's not even the full name Jak and Daxter.
Oh, is it
It's just
Jak
one of
Racing?
those- It's not Jak Racing, no.
Daxter and Friends.
There we go. Darkfry's got it. Is Daxter for the PSP.
Oh, wow.
29,000 copies sold in its second week.
Is it a game just about
It-
Daxter?
It was just a game about Daxter. You just played as Daxter.
It's really weirding me out hearing Daxter over and over again because I'm only used to hearing his name after Jak. So
Or you're used to hearing the name Dexter.
Yeah,
so
that's
me
the other
saying
one.
Daxter sounds like I'm saying it wrong.
Like
Hey,
you
what's
saying
that?
Dexter in a Boston accent.
You're watching Dexter's lab.
Dexter.
Hey, Dexter, get out of your laboratory. It's time for dinner. It's me, your Boston dad. Funny bit. And then number 10.
This is where I put my Boston accent if I had one.
Good joke.
Or was that Fairly Odd Parents? I don't know.
Yeah, that is fair. Oh, damn it.
yeah,
Butch Hartman's going to be in the comments of this. I think he's going to be furious. He's going to be furious about this one. Number 10, third week, Xbox 360 racing game. An EA published racing game made by the developers of Black, which we covered on a previous
is
episode.
it Need for Speed Underground 2?
It is not Need for Speed Underground 2, no, but it is a developer that will become associated with Need for
Is
Speed.
it Unbound?
It is not Unbound. No, it is not a Need for Speed game.
Dirt?
It's not a dirt game. No.
Publishers Burnout. It's not EA, is it? Is it?
Oh no, it is. Well, Burnout is the EA at this point. So yeah, it is a Burnout. But which one?
Oh, Burnout 2.
Burnout.
No, Burnout
Paradise.
3. Sorry.
It is the sequel to 3. It, arguably, it's kind of a remake of 3, but whatever.
Wait, Burnout 3 Takedown.
Is it Paradise?
It's not Paradise. No, it's the game that they made between Paradise and 3.
That was a game?
Yes, and it was an Xbox 360.
Burnout. I don't know. I
didn't know there was
3 and
another.
Paradise.
If you were playing Burnout against Silex from Metroid Prime Hunters, what would you want to get against him?
Wait.
Burnout.
Killer?
Not Killer, no. It's a dish
Burnout-
that's best. It's a dish that's best served cold.
Oh, Burnout Revenge.
Burnout Revenge.
Burnout Revenge for the Xbox 360, 57,000 copies sold.
I
Which
see.
funny story with that, which I'm repeating from the Black episode, but Black sold so poorly for EA that they basically told the developers, please put out another Burnout game to recoup the costs. And they did. And it did.
Wait, hang on.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, happily ever after. Then now they made that Unbound game where they're all cell shaded apart from the cars. So there we go. And that's that. So we're at the end of the episode. So I guess Darkfry, first things first, thank you very much for joining us to do the quiz, to talk about
problem.
Metroid Prime Hunters.
Happy to be here.
Despite the fact that you didn't have a good time with Metroid Prime Hunters, but I hope you had a good time with the podcast.
Yes, yes.
Good.
You won't have to make that
before-
hour-long video now about the game. So we've saved you that sort of burden.
That's
Yeah.
true. You no longer have to do the production values of
A season finale.
Darkfry and, having to get footage capture out of a DS because a lot of Nintendubers are, they don't like
Yeah.
emulation. They have to do like capture cards and stuff. So yeah, you've dodged a bullet there, which is good. Is there anything you would like to promote or shout out before we wrap up?
I would like to shout out, my channel, Darkfry, same name as me, Darkfry, which is, of course. I make cool videos. You can watch them. They're neat. And you can also listen to my podcast, Video Gems, which should be out by the time this is out.
Yes.
Where I interview video essayists, video makers, game designers, artists of all kinds, really, about their art, their process, and various other topics. And that's it.
Nice. Well, once again, it's been lovely having you. As it's been lovely having you, Ben. We've had you back.
Yeah.
Haven't had you as a host of a mini series yet, but I'm sure we will at some point. But
Possibly.
how do you feel that you've actually you finally played a good FPS with the podcast?
I think it feels good. How about we do another one about Metroid Prime Hunters?
Well, we're going to do another episode about Metroid Prime Hunters.
I reckon we ride the high. Different guest.
Wow. Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready for another 3 hours of this.
Okay. We're doing expanded. Yeah, we're doing this. We'll do it. That'll be the Christmas special. Is that we just pick up talking about Metroid Prime Hunters again?
Yeah.
We'll get Darkfry back as well for that. Is there anything you'd like to shout out about?
When's this coming out?
Oh, I don't know. Some point maybe towards the end of the year, I think.
End of the year. Okay, I'll have a new video by then. We'll go with that.
Oh yeah, hopefully.
End of the year, damn.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, no,
video.
we're back to the batching stages again. We got a
Damn.
lot of episodes to get up to date.
You know what? I'm gonna be confident. I might even have 2 up. So
wow,
that's
fucking
exciting.
Billy T. I don't even think I'm gonna have 2 videos before the end of the year. That's some confidence.
One
from
is
you.
heavy in the works, but then the other ones are. I don't even know. It's an ideation at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to find out what it is, and hopefully everybody.
I'm excited to listen to this episode
I'm
because
also-
I will have completely
Yes.
forgotten about it.
I don't
by
think I
then.
remember what Metroid is by the time this comes out.
I don't even think Metroid will exist. When
Possibly, yeah.
What
They're
if
gonna make-
by some crazy sort of happening, we have a new Metroid game by the time this comes out?
Yeah, but it's going
Like,
to be. But it's going to be Metroid 6 by Mercury Steam.
Or maybe
What, a
announced.
year after?
Like, who knows?
No, 2
Yeah,
years.
no,
after.
they're gonna actually no, because didn't it take them like 4 or 5 years between Samus Returns and
Samus Returns was
Dread?
2017. Dread was 2021. Yeah, so 4 years.
Yeah, so 4 years. I reckon.
Just get another one out.
It's just gonna be. They're just gonna reuse all the assets from. They're gonna remake. Because like Dread's kind of a remake of Fusion. They're just going to remake Zero Mission again. They're just going to make another Metroid 1 remake. It's like why?
They should do another Metroid 2 remake.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. They should do another M.
That'd be good.
It's
Just call it
time. It's
another
ti-
M. There we go.
Yeah, just call it another M, and it's like the babies cry again. Bottle Ship 2. I gotta go investigate
Now,
it.
James, how can I convince you that Metroid Other M is a shooter? Is that workable?
Oh Jesus, that's just, have a Metroid podcast. We could have a Metroid podcast where we could talk about Metroid games, and then we
Runs
could
out of
cover
material
other M.
pretty
There
quick.
we go. Well, not true. We could cover the comics and stuff like that, and the spin. We could cover the Smash Brothers games because I mean, I would argue that Samus was maybe only kept popular during the N64 era on that Smash game.
Mm-hmm.
So
I play Samus in Ultimate.
well, there we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
handy.
I used to play Samus in Melee, but then I changed over to what's his face, Captain Falcon.
I played her in
and
Smash
then I changed
4
over to
overall.
Goshi. So
So
yeah,
handy. Well,
very good. Well, I've been James. You can follow me on Twitter at HotCider, HOTCCYDR. You can also help support the podcast over from the same address on Patreon. On the next episode of Bullet Time, Snaker and Heavy Eyed return to talk about 2001's Red Faction. So I hope you join us for that. Until next time, though, folks. Should I do like I'm trying to think of like a funny outro.
before you do it, I forgot to say my name is Hey It Me Ben. That's where you can find me. That's probably important in the plug
Oh yeah,
section.
look for Hey It Me Ben wherever
You-
good content can be found.
Yeah,
In the northern
hemisphere.
Smash scene, look for Hey It Me Ben. Look for Diddy.
Diddy Kong.
Diddy Kong.
What's something funny?
keep hunting, but that's not that funny, is
See
it?
you next mission's what she says.
Oh yeah, there we go. See you next mission. Oh wait, what am I? I was about to do the Corneria theme, but that's not.
Yeah, that's how it's.
Okay, because the end of all the Metroid games is that like they always have like a really kind of like a triumphant fanfare. But then when you get to like the percentage screen, it just sounds like the darkest synth music possible, and it's like, why? Why did you do this?
There was a joke I thought of. I like when I was writing Metroid videos. I thought of this joke. Didn't know when to put it in.
Well, hopefully it's gonna land right now because it's gonna have to sting.
Yeah. So, Metroid become human.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The Bullet Time podcast is made possible by Arcadeology, Eric Hamilton Schneider, GamePlayer 1500, Mouse, Valerie B, VG, and the Hot Cider support tier. If you'd like to help with the production of episodes and gain access to extra content, consider supporting over at patreon.com/Hot Cider. That's HOTCYDER. A special thanks to Max Coburn for the Bullet Time theme tune.